Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate you tuning us all in as Geraldine Orozco will be here soon with The Spiritual You. And an interesting night it's going to be. I'm sure those of you who heard my regression a few weeks ago will be able to hear it again. Well, we're not going to play it again, but we're going to get her reaction to it. All right, let us say hello to everyone in our chat room tonight. We got Laura Lobbs in the gold medal position, race fan with a silver, Tim Mothman and his goatee with a bronze medal tonight. Hello, Robert Lamoth and race fan, Area 51, and Human Carl, a great veteran of the United States Air Force. Thank you for your service. Kurt M., nice to see you. Roy Boy, Stephanie Kenny Blankenship, Chris 716, and Lee the Bee. How you doing? Derek Galloway, thanks for coming on in. Paramarv, D. Cohen, and Neil Warden. Nice to have you all here. Thank you for joining us. Jessica S. Nice to see you again. Hello, Monica. Thank you for coming on in. As we continue on with Roll Call tonight, Super Quest is back. Yeah, Roy Washington. He'll be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Lulu Bell, thank you for coming on in. Nancy Thames, good to see you. And who else do we have here? Let's scroll on down and say hello to Pixie Lara and her purple hair. Thank you for joining us. Continuing on, let us say hello to number 21 in your program from Stockholm, Sweden, Lars Jansson. There he is. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Continuing on with our roll call tonight, let's see here. We have Les Paul Holland. Good to see you. And, there it's going to skip up for a quick second. Bigfoot Michigan Rob. Allegory over on Twitch. Nice to see you. Good morning, Commonwealth Andrew. Commonwealth Andrew will be signing autographs after the show as well. Light up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Dogman UK, good morning to you. As we continue on with our roll call tonight, Marty Burback. Lemon Squeezy, welcome to SOR chat. Thank you for joining us as we continue on with roll call. Patriotic Yank, good to see you. And Vanessa, thank you for joining us. What's happening here? Philip Baca and Mentira. Toe Tag, JSCO, thank you all for joining us. Hi, Melinda Leslie. Nice to see you, my dear. Jason Van Leuven, welcome back. Welsh Hammer, thank you for joining us. _ Maddie, what's happening, my man? John Corner, thanks for coming on in as we continue on with our roll call tonight. Susan Alloway, good to see you. And who else do we have here? We have Super Crazy. And let's see here. Scrolling down. Rayfin, nice to see you back. All right, let's get the radio side going. We welcome in the podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you for joining us as we are awaiting Bill WD-40 to lube us up for tonight's show in the chat room. We always like it when Bill is here, as Geraldine Orozco is going to be our guest here momentarily. And Kyle Smith, welcome to SOR chat. And we got about 30 seconds before we're going to run here on everything. What a good night we're going to have tonight. You know, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting. Don't forget, Super Chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And let me see here. Oh, shoot. Yes, I can. Bear with me. How do I do that? Oh, I know. Geraldine's locked out of her computer. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live at KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. The old Navy the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join us on Patreon by joining the Space Travelers Club. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find us on our website. All right. We got a power show of information tonight. We're going to talk regression therapy, aliens, and more with Geraldine Orozco on the Spiritual You. Then in hour number 3, we got Steve Stockton from Among the Missing. Right after that, Super Duke is going to be here with the UFO report. All right. We are just awaiting the arrival of Geraldine Orozco as she is having some technical issues around her computer right now. So we are waiting for her to come on in. But I'm going to warm you up a little bit here, okay? Because a week and a half ago, if you were tuning on in, I actually played almost an hour or so of a regression that Geraldine put me through in San Francisco at UFO Con back in 2021. Now, originally, she had sent this to me. However, I lost it. I was nervous to hear about it because I wasn't sure if it was something that I was personally prepared for. I wasn't sure if it was something that I wanted to actually go through and listen. So I forgot the password. And by the time that I was ready to say, okay, I'm ready to do this. And literally, this was about 3-4 months after I got locked out. I did. So I literally forgot about it for a while. And then all of a sudden, I kind of started bugging Geraldine saying, hey, I haven't heard it yet. So she eventually sent it to me. And I learned a few things about this because I'd never done regression before. I had tried it before. I had tried it once before. However, my guides, I think it was my guides, I'm pretty sure it was my guides, okay, literally wouldn't let me go under. It was like I got to a point where I was nice and relaxed. I'm seeing the things my regression therapist is putting me through. And then poof, I was wide awake. But with Geraldine, I think it's because I knew her for a long time at that point. We've been friends for a number of years. I think at that point, when Geraldine put me under, that I was actually able to relax and go through it. And we are now joined by the lovely and talented Geraldine Orozco from Bay Area Meditation in San Francisco, California. And just so you know, Geraldine, I actually played about half of the regression that you put me through on this show. The second half got a little personal for me, and I left that part out. But that first half of the regression, man, you absolutely brought out things that I had no idea I was holding inside. Good for you. How you been, my friend?
I'm fantastic. Thank you. Yes, I'm so glad you got a chance to review that. I mean, it's interesting the kinds of things that we hold in the subconscious mind, which is why hypnotherapy is such a powerful modality for healing and transformation and really can rewire the brain into a new way of thinking, new way of being, new way of living. So it's a really powerful thing. So I'm glad you got a chance to take a look at that.
Well, you know what was interesting for me is, and I was just saying before you got here, I had never been knocked out like that before.
Mm.
Okay.
Mhm.
And I think it was because I had tried it once before. My hypnotherapist that I was working with here locally got me so far, but I remember, I think it was my guides who just kind of put up a wall and said, "That's it. We're bringing you out." And wouldn't let me go any further. And I think it had to do with the comfortability that you and I have known each other for a long time at that point, that I was able to relax and just allow that information to actually come through. And I owe you a lot for that, because there were things in there that I had no idea. And I know over the amount of questions that I have received from our audience in our chat rooms and comments on social media, that they want to know about what went on and what was all about. Example, apparently I have a handler named Paul, and we're going to get into that tonight. But first, let's learn about regression therapy, because you can do past life regression, you can do regressions on all sorts of things. So let's learn about it tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds great.
So, how does it happen? How does it work?
So basically, what we do in hypnotherapy is that you override the brain with signals and information. And essentially, the override of those signals cause the brain to drop into a hypnotic state. And so, this is really interesting. When we watch TV, the patterns of light flashes are specifically calculated and designed to put you in a hypnosis state. If you study and if you watch TV for several hours and you study the patterns of the lights, you study the patterns in the music, the way the music rises and falls, the way that they shift from one image to another and the speed that they do, all of those are designed to put you in a hypnotic state, but with repetition. Okay. So it's the same thing in hypnosis. What we're doing is we are repeating an induction, essentially, that allows the brain to come into the subconscious layer. We are going into a deeper brain wave in which the brain can access, the mind can access the subconscious. And this is where all of the root programs are embedded within us that are running the back end of our programs. And as I mentioned many times before, what creates our reality is the subconscious mind. So what we want to try to understand is, what do we got going on there? And most of the times, what is in the subconscious mind are things that we haven't addressed, things that are they are deep emotions sometimes that we haven't looked at, we haven't been able to access. And in cases like, for example, what we discovered for you, Dave, that there are compartments, that the mind compartmentalizes itself based on what is necessary at any given time. And sometimes in some compartmentalized areas, through fragmentation, through trauma, essentially, there can be alternate aspects of ourselves that are living out alternate realities, essentially, somewhat like a multiple personality, but this is all subconscious in the mind. And so, of course, we're familiar with programs like MK Ultra and some of these mind programs in which there can be something like a handler, in this case, that would direct subconscious and subliminal messages to us in order to act out certain ways. And that's something that's been known in some of these military abductions or some of these contact experiences that are more of the military earth kind. But to go back to hypnotherapy, what's really powerful about hypnotherapy is that most of the time we are in hypnosis. So actually, when we are driving, when we are checked out, when we are daydreaming, we are actually in a hypnotic state. And the thing about a hypnotic state is that we are highly, highly suggestible. Okay, so that's why when you watch TV, they input things subliminally. So to buy things, the need to buy things to induce the desire for something, whether it's sex, whether it's emotions, whether it's fears, all of those things can be manipulated subliminally when we are not conscious and aware of our state. So hypnosis can be used for something productive, and it can also be manipulated against the mind.
Wow, it's heavy. And how easy is it to get into someone's mind? How easy is it to allow them the opportunity to relax and just let it out? Because I know there were times when we were going through ours, I felt internally that I should hold back, but subconsciously I couldn't.
Yeah. What's really interesting about hypnosis is that it's almost as if we access the inner child. And oftentimes the inner child finally has an opening for a voice. So when we have a lot of suppression of strong emotions or feelings or sensations over time, hypnosis can be a really powerful tool to access those deep subconscious beliefs and emotions, and they come to the surface. And the reason why is that it's incredibly cathartic for the human to be able to speak them, to express them, to communicate them out. And what I notice is that there is an incredible intelligence to the body, and the mind-body connection, that when people are in hypnosis, the body knows what it needs to address in order to hold the highest healing. And sometimes just by sharing something that has been suppressed, allowing that emotion to arise about whatever it is, can really cause a feeling of safety, security, and reconnection. And that's really the most important thing. Sometimes it's not so much about the information that comes up, because in these cases, sometimes we access memories of incredibly traumatic experiences. But surprisingly, by revisiting, by observing the emotions and letting it finally come up to the surface, the client can receive incredible healing and transformation, where they don't feel that they have to repeat that program, constantly blocking them from moving on forward in their lives. So it's very the body. In other words, to answer the question, the body has an intelligence, and normally I ask my clients to create questions, but really, what needs to come up for the human will come up in the session organically. And usually it'll be exactly what we go to immediately. And some of these healing experiences, they can be past lives, they can be present day experiences. But the key is that if you study the patterns of these experiences that are coming up, it's actually addressing core wounds and core emotions that really need healing. So it's really great that they can come up and we can address them.
All right, Geraldine, how did you learn to regress people?
Yeah, so I am a certified clinical hypnotherapist, and I'm part of the AHA, which is the American Hypnosis Association. I trained in HMI in Southern California, and many years practicing and training under medical hypnosis over the past 10 years now. Now it's going to be 10 years. So, for me, actually, what got me into it was my own hypnosis, when someone did hypnosis on me and it completely transformed my life. For me, it baffled me, the idea that I was able to access an infinite source of information simply by being put into a hypnotic state. So I wanted to understand how that functioned. And if I could do it, most certainly anybody can do that. And so the amount of transformation that it caused me just really pulled me towards learning about the subconscious mind, how our brain functions, how do we hold memories, how do those memories affect us, and how do they come to the surface. So there are many different induction processes, and there are a couple that are my favorite. But we can do rapid induction, we can do progressive, which to me is actually the most productive, to do progressive induction, because it allows the client to create trust and rapport in this process. And safety, as you mentioned, is number one. If you don't trust your therapist, you will definitely not be able to access things as deep as you would like to. And another thing I want to mention is that hypnosis and the way that we work with that is progressive. So you might need to do a couple hypnotherapy sessions to be able to get to really, really core things, just like you experienced, Dave. Sometimes, with the first hypnotherapist didn't quite work, but once the mind understands, and I would love to hear your feedback on this, the ability to surrender completely and just allow things to flow is the key. Even if you think you're speaking things that are crazy or just strange or don't really make sense, you enter into a stream of consciousness and it organizes itself after that the mental jumble is kind of organized. And this happens very commonly in my sessions.
Okay, so when you put somebody under, what are you searching for from beginning to end?
Well, for me, it's absolutely what my client is looking to address at that time. So, for example, if they are experiencing a life paralyzing fear of speaking or going out in public, or and it's stagnating their work, they can't get a relationship, they can't heal their bodies, their body starts to show some illnesses. So we want to get to the core root of those issues, and hypnotherapy is really powerful to access those core roots, because again, we get into the really subconscious programs, and sometimes some of these traumas are so deep that the human doesn't even remember the access point of when they took on the trauma as a child. Sometimes our brain blocks memories to the extent where we can't even access the memories. So hypnotherapy works in order to access those either directly or indirectly by accessing a past life. What I tend to find is that clients that access past life memories, actually they're healing current life blockages, and that's really important because they will tend to go to the past life that is mirroring the same blockage that they're having in this current life. And it can be illnesses. I've seen people heal their body from like illnesses just by going into some of these hypnotherapies. So the whole point is, with my client, in the beginning of the session, we kind of discuss questions. I have you write some questions. What are you looking for? How can I be of service to you? And we kind of go through those questions to kind of create and formulate a session. And from there, as I take you into the session, I will insert the questions that you are asking to help you reach your goal in your healing, whatever that is, mind, body, and soul. So we just work together. It's a collaboration. And I also want to add that because I am intuitive, I merge with you. So I'm seeing everything that you're seeing. And essentially, this is kind of like a teamwork that we are working on unraveling some of these memories to allow you to get to some healing. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I learned a lot about myself during that, because it was something I hadn't trusted, but I knew that I could trust you because of our friendship and our long relationship here on Spaced Out Radio. So I felt like I was in good hands. You also just mentioned the fact that, when you're choosing a therapist, if you don't feel comfortable, you can time yourself out and say, look, this isn't working for me, and go find someone else. Why is it important to have somebody there that you can trust with your most intimate feelings or history?
Yeah, it's incredibly important. I mean, one of the main things that humans feel is a profound feeling of loneliness and disconnect from the collective, and really what that really boils down to is a disconnect of the self. And so when we are battling with that, we haven't learned the tools to be able to provide a safe space, even for our own personal truth in our own life. So this is something that if a person isn't working proactively to build, much less go into a session where we're going to access the subconscious mind, where you might discover parts of yourself that you actually might judge. You might actually see parts of yourself that you think are horrible or not nice or impure in some way. This is very common. And it's usually the reason why people have a hard time in meditation. They cannot sit in meditation because in meditation, you have all these things that have been sitting there and pestering for a long time finally rise to the surface. And most people don't know how to handle those strong emotions and thoughts. So in a hypnotherapy, to create a safe container for you to be able to navigate those strong emotions, beliefs, and even revisit terrible memories that have occurred in your life is incredibly important for you. You also have to have a qualified person that can hold space and help you navigate through the terrible emotional transformation of those difficult memories into something productive. And really, if the therapist hasn't done their own personal work where they are familiar with the ins and outs of that transformation process, you might feel left like hanging. They will allow the emotion to come up, but they won't really know how to lead you into a transformation. So that's really, really important to have a therapist that can do that.
One of the other fears that I've always heard from people about going into hypnotherapy is that, oh, well, these people, they guide you into the answers that you're looking for. And one of the things that I pointed out in your session with me is, after listening to the questions, you never guided me. You were just asking pointed questions that you wanted answers for that we had discussed afterwards. I mean, is there a concern that people should have about being led astray during these sessions?
Yes. When people are trying to use the client for information digging, this is very dangerous in a way, because people will be put under hypnosis, and sometimes the therapist will kind of jump in and ask personal questions about themselves or ask themselves personal questions about something that they're curious about. And that can be intrusive for the individual, because the individual, in the subconscious mind, there are parts of us that also seek approval, also seek acceptance, and those can sometimes be confused with what is necessary for the client to have healing in that moment. So I do notice this a lot with hypnotherapies, that sometimes hypnotherapists, that sometimes they cross the ethical boundaries between what is necessary. I mean, hypnotherapy is for the healing of the individual, period, full stop, and that's what it should be focused on. Another part of it is that sometimes there are information mining. So because we are connecting to the subconscious and the collective, as I mentioned, we have an access source to the infinite potential of information. And this is wonderful, and it's necessary for every human to exercise that connection and the information that comes through. But sometimes therapists will mine for information. And that's where things can potentially go into leading if the therapist isn't skilled enough to ask the questions in a way that will allow the client not be dictated by subtle emotional influxes or, just questions that can guide subconsciously the answer, like, for example, isn't it, like, I'm just going to give you a random example. Isn't it true that those aliens are bad, and, how should we handle them, or something like this? That will immediately insert an idea and then ask for supporting evidence. I have noticed that in some therapists, and that's some way to guide, that I would normally advise people to ask blank questions unless it's exactly what the client wants to know. So there are some ethical boundaries there that are really, really important. And I think that the focus has to be on the individual. What does the individual need in order to heal and come into their highest expression? And that should be the focus more than anything.
Geraldine Orozco's The Spiritual You. We're going to continue with hypnotherapy. And I have some questions about mine for Geraldine. And we're going to get into that and more on The Spiritual You right here on Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned. We will be right back. Is that an orange pico you're drinking tonight?
This is rose tea. Rose tea.
Oh, see, it looks orange on here.
Yeah, it does look orange. Yeah, it's actually rose tea. It's really good. How are you, Dave? Great to see you.
I am great. It's starting to get cold up here. So I've actually had to start wearing a sweater.
Good. Yeah.
So
yeah.
And going into this forest to look for Sasquatch twice this weekend. So that'll be fun.
Oh, beautiful.
And in 2 different locations. So in both locations, we've had action. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Or the snow is falling.
I think it's going to be falling soon. I think it's going to be falling soon. I'm ready for it, though. I'm ready for it.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. I'm very ready for it and looking forward to having the snow come back until April.
Yeah, this year flew by so fast. I can't believe it's November. That's it. Year's over.
I know.
Yeah.
What are you getting me for Christmas?
What am I getting you for Christmas?
Yep.
What do you want for Christmas? Whatever you want. Yeah.
What I want? I want to show the audience your 1 bedroom that is full of shoes.
No, you're going to have to imagine that in hypnosis because it doesn't exist.
No, I actually do have a major request.
Okay.
Because last year we didn't get to do it. When I'm in San Francisco for a UFO con, I believe it's going to be at the end of March. We're going for dinner to hang out as buddies.
All right, we will do that.
Yeah. So that's my request.
All right. Awesome. March coming up.
Yeah, see? Mike Bothwell. Show us the shoes.
What's the shoes? There are no shoes. Stop asking me for shoes.
Geraldine's the only one I know with a 3-bedroom condo that has 1 for her bed, 1 for her shoes, and 1 for her amazing outfits. Wall to wall to wall.
This is all imagination. It's Dave's imagination.
Oh, you know I love you. You know I love you. Let's see here. So, how you been?
Great. Working. Got a little bit sick actually last week, and been recovering from that. Just little tiny sick, little bump in the road. And then I'm back, and so this weekend actually it's Disclosure Fest in Las Vegas, so I'll be going there.
I know. I was hoping to get to that.
Oh, that's too bad that you're not coming. So many people are supposedly showing up there. It's going to be something interesting.
That's the one I wanted to go to. I got to talk to Gimme about that for next year.
Yeah. You should come for sure.
Yeah. I think it'll be a good time. I really do.
Yeah. So anybody in the audience, if you guys are in Vegas or if you can make it out there, definitely come check it out. It'd be great to see you guys. I'll be speaking on Sunday.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's at the Luxor.
Yeah, at the Luxor.
I'm going to give you... Are you staying at the Luxor?
No, but I hear it's so beautiful. I actually haven't been there since I was like 16, so I really don't know. I'll have to see
the Luxor has one of the highest suicide rates in Vegas at a casino because of the way the rooms are that you can...
Wow, my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, I heard, and this is a little going into some dark things. I heard that the way that Luxor is set up is geometrically an inversion of energy in some ways, and that might actually
Yes.
trigger a lot of stuff. So, yeah, that's very unfortunate. My gosh,
And, and you know what's right across the street?
what's across?
Janet Airlines.
I
That
don't.
takes you.
Oh, for
Janet.
Area 51.
Yes.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah. And my advice is, if you're drinking at the Luxor, stand on the outside of the against the wall of the elevator, because going up is a little difficult. Here we go. Second half hour. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Good to have Geraldine Orozco, the Spiritual You, continuing tonight, which is always a popular show that we do. Reminder to all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join us on Patreon by joining the SOR Space Travelers Club. Here we go again, Geraldine Orozco and the Spiritual You. We are talking about regression therapy tonight. More importantly, my regression with Geraldine, her website, GeraldineOrozco.com. Thank you for being here, my friend.
Thank you so much once again.
And we should point out to our radio audience, you will be in Las Vegas this coming weekend for Disclosure Fest at the Luxor, a 3-night event, which is going to be absolutely awesome. I wish I could be there. I can't find my passport, so that's my fault right now.
No.
Somewhere in my house, just can't find it.
Oh, darn. Well, next time. Yeah. So if you guys are in Vegas, please do check it out. I'll be speaking on Sunday and also an experiencer panel on Friday. So excited to see you guys there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So right before the break, we were learning about regression therapy, the purpose of it, the reasoning behind it. And we're going to get into mine a little bit here, because there was a couple of things that really tripped me out about regression. And I know that I'm going to forget some things. So, and our audience in our YouTube chat is much smarter than me. So I will open up your questions about what we heard on my regression therapy the other few nights ago when I played it for you guys last week. So the one that really stuck out for me was the fact that apparently I have a handler named Paul. So what is a handler?
Okay, so this goes a little bit into the phenomena of contactees and experiencers and people that have highly active DNA genetic bloodlines that have been targeted and utilized for highly sensitive abilities like psychic abilities, the ability to connect to other dimensions, especially other beings, interdimensional beings, ETs, extraterrestrials, essentially interdimensionals is what I call them. But people that have the ability to connect with the other dimensions in these capabilities usually have the ability since childhood, and it's embedded and encoded in their genetic lineage. It means sometimes you will find this in families that are military families. Okay, so they they have been involved with the military for many generations. And there's always one or two of the children that go past down the heritage that are holding these special bloodlines of awakened consciousness, activated DNA. They have the ability to access these interdimensional realms. And for that purpose, usually recruited at a very early age to participate in programs such as some of these military programs. This is where sometimes people experience military abductions, or in the astral layer, in the astral dream state, they are recruited in the astral body to carry out certain special programs. A lot of people will claim that they are being trained in UFO flight. Sometimes they're taken in underground bases as children. They are tested for their psychic abilities. They are utilized in these ways. And so for some of these children that are highly, highly productive in these abilities, sometimes they are singled out, and sometimes they will be if they are very proactive in their contact experiences, they will be utilized, and a handler will be assigned to them. A handler is in charge. Because these children participate in these programs, the primary way of maintaining these programs separate and compartmentalized from their everyday life is by creating altars. Okay, the altars are created by fragmentation, fractalization through trauma, or sometimes hypnosis. Every time hypnosis abilities, just as I mentioned, it can be utilized in nefarious ways to create compartmentalized personalities, much like the film The Manchurian Candidate. If you guys have watched that film, where the gentleman that is running for presidency essentially is triggered in and out of a certain state in which an alternate personality rises up, is programmed to carry out certain experiences, and then turned back on. And the two different personalities will not remember the things that each other have done. Okay, so this is something that happens to some individuals that are highly, highly active. And usually there is involvement and military abductions. There's a history of that, whether they know it or not. If you study those experiences, you begin to identify some of the markers of these kinds of activities. And the handler essentially will guide and utilize this individual or an asset in order to carry out certain agendas, or to infiltrate certain groups in which they are into. This can be anything. It can be social groups. It can be government groups if they're working for the government. It can be private groups. It can even be the spiritual community, whatever it can be. Some of these handlers don't always have the best interest in that they will carry out certain agendas by utilizing and manipulating the individual. So the handler would be the one that would handle the subject into subconsciously programming certain activities or gaining information through their everyday activities. So kind of in a nutshell, that's kind of how that functions. And it's very common in the contactee community, actually. I've experienced it with many of my experiencers that didn't realize that they had handlers. But there seems to be, especially for those that come public or to speak up about these experiences, that somehow there's a cross intersection between the contactee and the military at some point. Because obviously the military is very, very interested in people that have contact experiences and maintain a very close proximity and observation of these individuals. And I just want to finish this part to mention that it's not something to be afraid of, but it is necessary to understand the mechanics of our subconscious mind and the sovereignty that we have as individuals to activate our consciousness and higher faculties, to break away from the programs that are more parasitic, and to create really strong boundaries and cloaking from some of these governmental institutions that could carry out negative things. So that's just kind of an overview.
Okay, so as I learn about Paul, how would I go about even trying to learn about who or what this Paul guy is?
Yeah, so some of the things that I would suggest in this case, and I've had many cases where people have identified that they have a handler type of scenario. Take a look at some marker memories. Okay, so what are marker memories? Marker memories are really vivid memories, but they are fragments of memories that you have of events or scenarios that felt off or strange, that would include some kind of phenomena like missing time, for example, situations in which you have met. A common indicator is that people meet somebody that seems to be from the government, or they feel like they're being followed or watched. It also can go into certain experiences where people are feeling that they're being followed by black helicopters. This is not something that people are making up. Like, literally, people do experience that they feel that they are being watched or monitored by that. And I do feel that this is very deeply connected to the handler part of contactee's experience. Also, pay attention to your dream state and the kind of experiences that you're having in out of body experiences, because the way that this technology is actually carried out is actually working with the subconscious mind, and there is a profound access to the body in out of body states. So when they are in astral plane is when the individual becomes very easy to manipulate and to bring into some of these alternate dimensional states in which they carry out certain programs. Okay, so yeah, and then take a look at some of your abduction or contact experiences of your past. Do some of these seem more militaristic? Do some of them seem more underground base like? Do they look like you're looking at technology from the 50s, or maybe just more terrestrial technology as opposed to interdimensional or really holographic or highly advanced technology, which isn't always the case for some of these military groups. And of course, there is also a cross section with individuals that are visiting other planets in alternate states. Okay, and it could be that these projects or they have prolonged dreams over years where they continuously revisit a different planet and they're carrying out certain activities in these planets. I tend to find that some of my contactees that have these experiences are also combined with kind of handler situations, whether it's someone that's monitoring the progress that they're doing, or reporting back, or some kind of shadow government that somehow manages some of these things that are occurring in dream state. So it is a very interesting phenomena, but just those are some of the things that I would pay attention to.
Okay, so I don't recall having any dreams or thoughts of the military being around during my abductions or anything along those lines. You know, could Paul not be human? Could
Yeah.
Paul be a reference to an extraterrestrial?
Yes. 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 So this takes us to the other part of these kinds of handler situations. That sometimes we are actually dealing with interdimensional intelligence or consciousness, that we have some kind of contractual agreements with. And sometimes these interdimensional beings will present themselves as a handler or will function like a handler, but it could somehow be a fraction of your higher self or your subconscious collective that is communicating and utilizing this interface of a handler in order to communicate with you, in order to carry out certain things or to help you in your navigation. It really just depends on your relationship with your handler, and what kinds of things follow as a result of the directions or the exchanges that you're having. Now, a question I would ask is, do you recall the nature of the relationship that you have had, or do you remember what came up in the session that usually is related with the handler? Do you know if it's something that, was it something supportive? Did it feel like something supportive, or did it feel like something intrusive? And that's where I would kind of direct where to look at.
Well, you know what? Maybe you're going to have to regress me again and we figure out who Paul is.
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That might be one that we're going to have to do. One of the other things that I brought up was about California that I mentioned that Central California would crack and break off. It's weird because I'm so not a conspiracy theorist about something along those lines. I don't even recall why I would say something like that. Like that just seems way too woo for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, as with everything, because we are so open to an infinite potential of information, we have to kind of take the information with a grain of salt, but also be respectful towards the information that you're receiving. Sometimes these informations can be predictory. Sometimes they can be some information about future potential scenarios. Sometimes they could be timelines that are potential, possible future timelines that humanity can access. And I always tell my clients to respect what they get, but don't hold it as absolute truth. And also maybe take a look at some of the information and the meaning around some of these things that are being expressed. Maybe it's not meant to be taken in a literal sense. Maybe it means a division of some kind, or just an energetic split that will be occurring, or even a war, or something like that. So what I tell my clients is that meditation is absolutely essential in order to deep dive into the information that you're getting, and take a look at what are some of your subconscious beliefs that you have around the subject, and sometimes people can find really powerful information there. Yeah, it's all very valuable. And even if it sounds something woo or something strange, it is specifically for you in a certain way. So we have to understand what that is. It just takes a little deep reconnection and retrospect. Mhm.
Okay. Another thing that popped up, and I laughed about this, was apparently my crush for Katy Perry came through. My
Oh.
celebrity crush. But I recall in from listening that allegedly Katy Perry and I have met on craft.
Mm,
I
yes.
said she's listened to the show, but she has no idea who I am.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
I found that to be kind of funny because it is believed that Katy Perry allegedly is an ET abductee,
Yes. Mhm.
and she sung about aliens a number of times in her songs.
Mhm.
So I mean, when you hear something like that, to me, I don't know how to believe that because on this world, it's so out of touch with reality that it's kind of weird that I would say something like that under hypnotherapy. But if I look at it from the grand scape, who knows what happens and who you're meeting up there because it's the groups that choose their people.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, okay, so I will mention this. Look, your hypnotherapy will be more successful the more you clear up your subconscious mind. Okay, what do I mean by that? And I know this as a fact just because personally, I've experimented with this myself to see if it's true. The more that you clean your mind from radio, television, all these things, the more pure your channel becomes. The more you manage and master your emotions, the more pure your ability to discern and your intuition becomes. Okay, in these. So, one suggestion I will give people if you're considering having a hypnotherapy, do the shadow work to clear up all that junk that's there. Okay. Now, I know Dave, I know he does a lot of work internally, and I know he doesn't have a lot of that stuff in his mind just floating around. So, the way that I access this information with him, I really felt very strongly. And I mean, even I had completely forgotten about that. But when you bring it up, like I remember the flash of the image of you being in the craft with her. Like that's super vivid to me. Um, and so this is the thing where we have to understand, what happens in these dimensional planes, in these alternate worlds. We can't really reason with our human mind, but we are more deeply interconnected than we know. And the ones that are vocal about their contact experience, we actually recognize each other from being on these crafts sometimes. And I believe that we are attracted to people and we group together, whether you know it or not. You're in the vicinity of people that are in resonance with you and that you have experienced interdimensional activities with. This is part of the morphogenetic field. It's how we stored memory, ancestral memory. We are holding on to interdimensional contact in that ancestral memory, and it will rise to the surface eventually. So it's really not too far off, in my opinion, really, that just like we have ancestral roots that all go back to one origin, we also have ancestral interdimensional contact that we all seem to be sharing. Certain bloodline groups are sharing collectively. I do feel that this actually was true for you, Dave. I really truly feel that that was actually something true. Just
Really?
because Yeah, just because your lineage, and I don't know if you remember about your lineage, your interdimensional lineage, it's really important to pay attention to our roots, who we have underlying in our subconscious mind, and our genetic makeup. Our alien DNA essentially will tell us a lot about the vibrational lineage that we come from. And there are certain royal families that have been here for a very long time, which you participate in yourself, Dave. And so a lot of these ancient practices bring people up to have lifetimes where they're very public, like what you're experiencing in this lifetime. Okay, so it's not too far off, the role that you're playing.
Very, very cool. We got about 3.5 minutes before we have to go to break here at the top of the hour. Geraldine Orozco of the Spiritual You continues with this. And, one of the things that I was talking about, an object, according to Shelley, I was talking about an object that they wanted returned. I think she made another comment about being a white feather or something along those lines. So it's to me, I have no idea what the object is. Now, at one point, I actually felt that a UFO left an object for me. This is the landing I had that I witnessed back on April 10th, 2014.
Mm-hmm.
However, I was never able to find that object.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember.
And I searched for it in that farmyard. So I'm not sure, like if I look around my studio, I have nothing that would be considered alien around here outside of maybe my alien light and a few books or something and drawings, but nothing that would be from them physically.
Physically. Keyword physical.
True.
Yeah.
So how would I look for that? How do I know if I'm even in possession of it?
Yeah, you simply have to look in your field. Okay. All of the things. And so receiving gifts from interdimensional beings is actually very common. It's a very common thing. And it's very important that the receiver makes sense and downloads the information of what they're receiving and what it's for. And I think for you, it's more than just it's an object. I think it's an entire realm of consciousness that you had tapped into from that moment forward, that even directed your life in the direction that you're going, really. And I see this a lot. I feel that the kind of things that we're receiving from our councils, which is a holographic projection of our ancestral alien lineage, our DNA essentially, allows us the ability to access information that always activates us into an initiation. It's an initiation that's occurring. So I would suggest, just based on my experience, that if you look within your field, if you take a look, download the information, I think it's more than just physical object, probably an interdimensional initiation for you. But you need to see that. You need to see if that's true for you with your own work.
Well, it was a very interesting time, to say the least. And I'm pretty sure there's more we could probably go over, but we are running out of time on this end, because when we return after the break here on Spaced Out Radio, Geraldine, I think we got to get into, the alien side of this, because there is the Dave side of this, but there's also the extraterrestrial side, which a lot of people go through on a daily basis, yourself included.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to try and figure out what this all means. What's it all about? Because right now, after listening to that, I feel like I've gone actually backwards to learn to move forwards again.
Yes,
And
yes.
maybe that's the point. Maybe it's not. But I do know this. We are going to go to break here at the top of the hour. Geraldine Orozco and the Spiritual You happens near the beginning of each month here on the Mighty SOR. And we love Geraldine around here and the knowledge that she brings to this show month in, month out. Her website, GeraldineOrozco.com. You want to check it on out. If you're in San Francisco, you can even get a healing regression therapy from her. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. Strong hour. Very strong hour.
Nice.
Crazy. All right. I'm going to take a quick break here. I'm going to put you in the green room.
Okay.
And I will be right back, okay?
All right.
All right. Be right back, people. All right. Well, I just had the crap scared out of me. Oh, God, I love living in nature. Geraldine can pop in when she's ready. Well, Shelly, fill me in. Fill me in. Got your question, Paramarv. Mike, can you repost it? It's hard for me to scroll back. Thank you, Catherine, for the super chat tonight. It is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis, so thank you. D. Henderson, thank you for joining us. Better late than never. That is true. Yes, Geraldine is an amazing soul. She is like a sister to me. I love her to death. I do. And reminder to all of you that you can join our Space Travelers Club for as low as $5 a month. The link is below in the YouTube description of the show, as well as our store is open on our website, spacedoutradio.com. Remember, folks, we do not have ugly swag. We do not have ugly swag, which is always good. Here we go with hour number 2.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live at KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Salsuginous. Salsuginous is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join us on Patreon by joining the SOR Space Travelers Club. We continue on with Geraldine Orozco and the spiritual you, the ET connection that we have, that we can learn through regression therapy. And I got to tell you a little creepy story here, Geraldine. Just happened.
What happened?
So I go outside during the break because there's been northern lights around here recently, and I haven't seen them in a while. So I figured, you know what, I'm going to go outside, check it on out. Well, as I'm staring up at the sky, I hear footstep, 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 footstep. And I turn and I look, and in the darkness, about 8 feet away from me, is a beautiful deer walking right past me.
My gosh, how beautiful.
Yeah, that mama, her babies are around somewhere. But it scared me because at this time of year, you don't know what really is back there, you know? And considering my eyes hadn't dilated to the dark, and I'm thinking, that's not a bear. Too big for a cougar. Okay, we got deer. Deer is safe. Yes, about 8 feet away from me.
Wow. Interesting confirmation, I think. You know, sometimes animals come into our space to confirm things. So think about what you were thinking in that moment. Maybe they were confirming something.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. And I know there's not a lot of animals where you live, except for people. You know?
Well, yeah, I actually relocated to an area that's really close to nature, and there's a lot of amazing. I live in front, right in front of the beach, and so it's like whales. We get whales all the time, and I can actually see them. I go out my
Really?
window. Yeah, it's really nice.
I have never seen a whale.
Oh, you have to. You have
Well,
to.
I have an aquarium, but it's funny. When I started my radio career, I lived on Vancouver Island for 2 years.
Yeah.
And there would be all these pictures of, oh, did you see the whales yesterday? And it was always yesterday. And I would go back to the spot where they were and no whales. No whales. Never saw it. The coolest thing I did see, though, was I was catching a ferry to Vancouver Island one day to go home and literally saw a giant pod of porpoises. There had to be like 200, 300 porpoises.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
And they were all doing that, the whole jumping in front of the boat. I mean, it was incredible. Wow. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that was kind of cool. But
magical to see whales. If you can try, when next time you go to California, you can do whale watching in Monterey and Half Moon Bay. It's just amazing. It's magical.
Yeah, but the problem is there's great whites out there.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually you're in a boat and usually safe, but
yeah, I'm not taking that chance. I'll look at them through binoculars from shore. It's safe there. Yes. But the amount of sharks that are in the water around San Francisco, Dave ain't even dipping a pinky toe in that water. Because as soon as I dip a pinky toe in the ocean water of San Francisco, that fin is coming right out of the water and it's coming right for me. Because unlike you, I'm a meal. Okay, you're not even an appetizer. I'm a full meal.
Oh man. Okay. All right.
All right. So let's get to the aliens thing here, because the regression therapy is one thing, but the ET contact side is another. And during the regression that I went through with you, one thing that I learned was there was an extraterrestrial part to this. The connections, the messages. To me, a lot of the messages seem to be in code, which I don't really understand because half the time I was snoring, and I apologize about that, by the way. Oh, I'm embarrassed by that. But nonetheless, what are these codes or these words, or why is it so hard to translate what the ETs have put into us?
Well, it's all about vibrational frequency. So I will say this. If you weren't in resonance with these beings to begin with, you would not even have interaction. Okay, so definitely you are in resonance with them. You have some kind of contractual agreement. And I remember, like now it's coming vivid back, the incredible messages that you received were definitely deeply encoded. And there's a lot of meaning in that. And this is where we start to look at some of the ancient practices of numerology, taking a look at, geometry, many different aspects of decoding some of this information can play a really powerful role in your understanding of the messages. But in my opinion, the best way to understand these messages is by shifting vibrational frequency to be in as much of alignment with the information as possible. How do you do that? In my experience, and this happens a lot for contactees. Sometimes they will receive encrypted messages. It can be numerical. Sometimes they can see symbols. Sometimes they can receive numerical codes or shapes and sounds, frequencies. And when they receive the information, it'll feel overwhelming. It'll feel like it's information. They know it's information, but they don't know what it is. And it isn't until years later that sometimes they look back at that information and it gets clear. It becomes clear. So the best way to understand this is, first of all, there's an agreement being made here. You have some work to do with these beings, and they are calling you to action, to pay attention. That means that preparation is required. Number one, preparation is vibrational frequency. We have to align to the vibrational frequency of these beings in order to be able to download and get clear about what is being shared. Part two is that you're already communicating and you're already doing what you need to do with them in your astral plane, because when you're sleeping, which is why you were in deep sleep, you're leaving the body. And that's actually where you can experience vividly the kinds of things that you are channeling through. So cultivation of your out of body is incredibly important. As much as we practice presence and training in the physical body in waking state, we have to do that in the dream state so that these messages can become clearer and clearer over time. The next part is that begin to take a look at the connection between the beings, the history of your relationship with these beings, and then take a look and see if you had any other further interactions with them from that experience until today. To take a look at maybe the trail, to begin to investigate what is your relationship with these beings. What is it that they seem to want to communicate to you or through you? Remember that these beings are an extension of yourself. So in some way, aspects of yourself are speaking through the beings. You are interacting with them. Another thing that's really important is that sometimes in deep meditation, you can begin to download just by reviewing the codes and the information that you got. I have clients that write it down. Sometimes they're artists, they create drawings. And through meditation of looking at the symbols or the numerical, the numbers or the shapes, or repeating it. So you have a recording. In your case, I would listen to that over and over again. Sometimes the information is telepathic. So you will receive images, feelings, and sensations and emotions that begin to arise as you tune into that information. So that's a really key thing to pay attention. What comes up for you? People start to get memories. Sometimes they recall memories that they hadn't recalled before. And then that tunes into the rabbit hole of information that they need. Another thing is that sometimes people are receiving activations and initiations that need to be applied in future times. So sometimes they're receiving directives about how to change their life, how to change their business in the direction that will help humanity in a greater way. And I think that, for you, Dave, it could be that you have a very strong bond between these beings and your life purpose, and that your life purpose is somehow supported and directed by some of these things in order to help you be of service to humanity. So I think that can be very much a key to change the business, expand, whatever it is that's available to you can be available as you unpack some of these things. Also, another thing is that they are potential timelines. They are potential timelines for your future. So if you understand what's being shared with you there, sometimes one tiny little change in your life can send you in a completely different timeline, and that timeline can really activate rapid growth for you, change, healing, whatever it is that you're looking for. There's different facets. And if you study what I'm sharing with you, they're like different frequencies of reading, like a bigger picture of what you're receiving. So, that's how I would put it.
Okay. So, it is once again about trying to decipher and find the message. So I will go back over it and from start to finish. And I feel like I should take notes this time and try and figure everything out. So for somebody like me who has very sporadic ET contact, okay, the last contact I had was back in July, and I don't recall having anything since then. But because for me it has seemed so sporadic over the years, does that even matter to the connection that I have with what is going on out there?
Remember, you're talking about conscious contact that you remember. Okay, so actually, you're a contactee, you're wide open, okay? Now, our fears, the fear of the unknown, the fear that we have of not having control, the fear that we have being helpless, the fear that we have of dealing with things that are more powerful than us, perceiving them as they are more powerful as, not that they are, but the human tends to believe that advanced technology or strange looking beings are more powerful than us, okay? So these are programs that we have to gently deprogram in order to be able to see truth. And especially those rooted in fear. Once we access the fear-based programs that create this illusion of a safe container between ourselves and other dimensions, we can begin to explore again. So what I mean by that is that we're probably having a lot of contact all the time. Sometimes we don't remember it because the waking state part of us hasn't integrated fully, or perhaps there are parts of us that fear what we could see or judge what we're experiencing. So the more that we work on those belief systems, the more you're going to remember and recall. Okay. Number two, once you have at least one vision of an experience and interaction that you've had with them, if you can just understand the nature of that experience, there's a lot of progressive work that's been happening from that moment forward. Because in dream state, we are experiencing multiple timelines, multiple dimensions. We are interacting with many species. Those species are a holographic projection of what we have in our DNA. And in the hypnotherapy, Dave, I recall that you were able to access awareness of several lineages that you hold within you. And some of those very powerful lineages that you hold within you. So that tells you a little something about what you're here, your purpose on earth. So my number one suggestion when people have these sessions where they're interacting, get clear about your purpose and get clear about what needs to be flushed out in order for you to open up your visibility in these interdimensional realms. Get rid of fears, doubts, anxieties. All that has to be addressed ASAP in order for you to continue clarifying the agreements that you've made with these interdimensional beings. Why? Because sovereignty, okay? We don't realize how deeply entangled we are in the universe with other species, with other interdimensional intelligences. They are in our DNA. They are an extension of ourselves. And so in the same way that in this human life, we're learning to overcome experiential, contractual agreements with our relationships, with people that we meet on every day, we are also learning how to do that interdimensionally. And the cleansing of parasitic entanglements and refining of positive, supportive agreements are going to pull your soul forward, fast forward, and prepare you for the time when you're going to leave this planet into a higher octave of vibrational frequency. It is the training of the navigation of the afterlife, whatever you're doing in your dream state, whoever you're interacting. So it's really important that we get clear about those messages that come through and what we're doing with them, because we are super, super active in these realms, in the dream state, constantly. You're working with them very constantly.
I never knew that. I appreciate that. One of the questions that I forgot to ask at the beginning of hour number one, when we were talking about regression therapy and learning about it, what is the difference between what you do in connecting with other ethereal beings compared to past life regression therapy? What's the difference?
Yeah, that's an amazing question. And to be honest, the veil of the way that we conceptualize time and space is extremely limited. Okay, so the human mind wants a linear, finite model of reality. And although we've been sold that by this hologram, the matrix, and all of our, learnings of this world, and the science and the mechanics of this world, the truth is that it far transcends that. Okay, so in other words, we have to understand that we need to be able to see outside the box. And in order to do that, our flexibility in navigating these realms is going to be really important in understanding truth, essentially. And the other thing I wanted to add to this is wait, repeat that question again, just so I can get clear about where I'm taking this.
Oh, okay. The difference between connecting with extraterrestrials and ethereal beings,
right?
Plane that you do compared to past life regression therapy.
Yes, I'm so sorry. Okay. So that being said, we need to understand we are multi-dimensional. And what that means is that in every dimension that we are in it, moving in and out of. So, when you see a ghost, you are literally turning your vibrational frequency in alignment with the ghost for you to be able to interact with it. Okay. The same way when you see an ET being or an interdimensional, you're shifting your little radio dial frequency to be in alignment in order to interact with that being. So this is how we are interdimensional all the time. And to bring it closer to home, when you're angry, you're going to turn the radio dial to connect with another angry person in order to create a scenario that will trigger that anger. Okay. So that being said, in the same way that we have the potential of tuning in resonance with certain similar beings of consciousness in these dimensional planes, we are opening ourselves up to, based on our frequency, to information that we're able to access. So what I notice with hypnotherapy is that they begin to access past lives that are directly in resonance with themselves in this present moment. It's really powerful. And so those past lives will provide information that they need right now, healing, potential healing for them right now, so on and so forth. Now, in some of these past lives, they discover that they were, let's say, a gray or a blue being in that past life. They see themselves, they're a blue being. They begin to relive that life in this foreign planet. And the scenario that they're experiencing there is metaphorically and also emotionally very similar to the blockages that they have in this lifetime. So there's a powerful connection. Further, the individual has been meeting that blue being in their dream state for the past 3-4 months. Okay. So what it seems to be is that we are existing in multiple timelines simultaneously. And the idea of past lives, quote, past life in quotes, there is really no such thing as a past life. In fact, we access the information that is necessary to us simultaneous to this time. And what we think is a past life is actually a parallel lifetime existing in this present moment that becomes available to you based on your frequency. So this can overlap, and essentially your interdimensional contact is deeply, deeply interconnected with the lives and the potential timelines that you have access to in hypnotherapy. You're just accessing all of yourself. Basically, you're opening up yourself to all of parts of you.
Geraldine Orozco and the Spiritual You continue right now on Spaced Out Radio. 2 minutes to go here. And after the break, we will get some audience questions. Geraldine, the vulnerability that someone has when they go through something like this, usually we are prepared for, past lives or whatever. But when you get into that higher realm of extraterrestrials, where the energy is much higher and the messages are not as clear, more mystifying, how do we translate what we learn from this and put it into everyday use in our lives? Is that even possible?
Yeah, it's extremely important that we do that, actually. And I'm so glad that you brought that up. Because what happens with a lot of contactees or experiencers or people that do hypnotherapy sessions, that they tend to either do one of two things. They compartmentalize the experiences and then they continue to have their life, and there's no integration. That's a big faux pas against yourself, because you're compartmentalizing and splitting yourself. And remember that the nature of this human experience in this temporary timeline is unity inside out, unity internally, and unity with the whole. So that also applies to unity in our subconscious mind and all the things we encounter. So it's really important for us to create integration. The other potential is that people, have these experiences and then they just completely become identified with them. It's the absolute truth. They see themselves as let's say Isis, the goddess Isis, and done. They just identify themselves with Isis, and that's what they become. They dress like a goddess. They begin to do healing sessions like a goddess, whatever it is. And there's nothing really wrong with that. But the problem is that we cap our potential with both of these extremes. When you identify with a certain part of what you're experiencing, you're not able to take the invaluable information that is being shared with you with that experience and then grow, initiate. You use it as an initiation for you for healing. And then
Geraldine Orozco and the Spiritual You continues in another half hour right after this. We'll get to your questions. As we always love the audience to participate, GeraldineOrozco.com is her website. We will be back with more Geraldine right after this. This is like flying by tonight. Flying by.
Super fun. I'm glad we talked about this. So you played your regression for the public? That's so cool. I didn't know you did that.
Yeah, well, I hadn't heard it before. So when you sent it to me, I was like, you know what? I'm going to play it.
Yeah.
And there was, I played half of it. The other half I felt was a little too personal that I didn't bother playing that part. But I played, about 2/3 of it. And I just felt that, they might as well, they've been asking me for a while, what happened? So I just figured, let's just play it together and see where it goes.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. Your session was super powerful. Yeah, very interesting stuff.
I do want to go through it again with you, though. I do.
Okay.
Hi, the Unknown and Javier. How you guys doing? So, I'm getting my body tuned up right now.
That's good. That's a good time.
Yeah. My friend Phil, I call him Dr. Phil. Dr. Philzy, actually. He is like a chiropractor / energy healer. And he is just doing wonders for my body right now.
Wow. That's so fantastic.
Yeah. And I see him twice a week. Like, it got to the point this summer where I could barely walk.
Wow. That's
like, I was just in so much pain. Like, I couldn't even exercise, nothing. It was just so much pain and stress and all of that. And he's been working really hard to get me back into shape and so that way I could get back working out and everything, because Lord knows that I gotta get back into my discipline. That's for sure.
Yeah. Wow. Well, it takes time. It's been a tough year. It's been an energetically heavy year, emotional year. It's an emotional year. A lot of emotions, things clearing up, so yeah, just that's so great that you're doing that right now.
Yeah. I just wish I could find my passport.
Gosh,
this is honestly, it's driving me nuts.
Yeah. And have you checked your luggage? I know it's silly, but sometimes we put it in our luggage and we forget.
The last time I saw my passport was I put it in my pocket after getting off through customs in Vancouver.
Maybe you lost it.
I don't think I did, because I think somebody would have turned it in, and maybe I would have got it, right? And I've had nothing bad on my credit report, nothing. And so the first thing I do usually when I get home is I always put my passport back where it needs to go. And I've checked that spot numerous times. I've checked all of my baggage, the jackets I was wearing, the shorts I was wearing. Nothing. I cannot find it.
Very strange.
So check my vehicle. I know it's in my house, but I just don't know where.
Wow. Maybe use that intuition. See if you can use. Sometimes I use that and I find the most amazing things, and if I lose something. But Yeah, but otherwise, maybe just get a new one. Cancel the other one, maybe.
Well, then you got to go through a whole security thing,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and they drill you like, where was the last time you saw it? Blah blah blah.
Yeah. Hopefully you can find it.
Hopefully. Yeah, because I would love to be going to Vegas this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Well,
I'm gonna. I got to get out more. Like next year, I got to get out a little bit more than what I'm doing.
good. Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. So
Did you say that your party this coming year is going to be somewhere different? I think you said.
I'm hoping.
Oh, okay. Okay. Where is it? Still in Vegas, or I forget what we talked about.
Reno.
Reno. Okay, got
Yes,
it.
closer for you.
Okay.
Closer. That way you don't have to pack so many shoes.
Okay, great.
All right, we got 15 seconds. Thank you to Mike and to Mama Catherine for the great super chats. Very much appreciate earning your love and support on Spaced Out Radio. If you're new, don't forget to hit subscribe, ring that bell, and here we go. We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Reminder to all of you that if you've missed most of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join me in the Space Travelers Club on Patreon. We have her until the top of the hour, Geraldine Orozco and the Spiritual You, which happens here each and every month. And we love it when Geraldine's here. Her website, GeraldineOrozco.com. If you want to check it on out. Geraldine, thank you so much for being here and a positive influence on our audience.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Let's get to some audience questions because I know they are around. Let's start off with Paramarv. Geraldine, if time is happening all at once, could you hypnotize me, progress me to my deathbed, and find out what my biggest regrets are so that I might avoid them as I move forward?
Well, you know what? That's actually a really awesome question because one of the most powerful transformative techniques that I utilize in hypnotherapy when I take people to past lives is that they move through key points in their life and then always to the moment of death, the very last breath that they're about to take. And when they're in that last breath and they begin to review their life, it is really powerful, stringing together the main points in your life to begin to understand kind of the overall theme and the lessons that you're learning in life. And usually at that moment when they're about to detach from the physical body, the perspective changes from this myopic view that they may have taken or collected through life into a more expansive way of observing it. And it can be incredibly transformative. Now, the interesting thing about this lifetime is that because we are such powerful co-creators simultaneously in the present moment, that you have infinite timelines available to you based on your choices, based on your emotions that you're feeling right now, the thoughts that you have, and what you're running in your subconscious mind will dictate the kind of timelines that you choose. And remember that each one of those timelines can change your life drastically. So It's not so much that you can go to the end of this lifetime to review the emotions, because you can change any number of variables until the moment of the last breath in this lifetime. I do suggest that you revisit a past life and begin to notice the patterns, maybe a couple past lives. Notice what are the patterns that come up. What is the lesson that you've been trying to overcome so many lifetimes that brought you into this lifetime? And it's really powerful to see the patterns that life can take. If you can identify these patterns at the time of your death in this lifetime, you can free yourself from those entanglements and choose a higher octave life in the next when you leave this body. Okay, so really powerful. Thank you for that question.
All right, let's go to Mike. Was it really Katy Perry Dave was seeing, or an ET? And how often do they disguise themselves as someone's celebrity crush for breeding purposes?
Amazing question and absolutely relevant. And this was something that I was going to say earlier when Dave mentioned someone else actually that he saw. But cloaking is incredibly a popular thing that is done with ETs. You mentioned that you didn't see a lot of military, but you saw a lot of alien, ET beings in your experiences. Now, sometimes, and I've experienced this myself, and I've also seen it in many sessions, that sometimes through drugs that are administered through some of these military experiences, sometimes they're cloaking the military with ET beings. And sometimes the ET beings cloak themselves with people that would most appeal to you. And they will draw that imagery from your subconscious mind and create a hologram and present themselves as that. It can be the hologram of a really beautiful woman. It can be the hologram of your mother. It can be a hologram of an aunt. Whatever will make you feel safe in that scenario. That's why dreams can be very, murky and kind of convoluted until you clear up your senses to be able to remove those veils that are being perceived in those experiences. So it is very common that these experiences can be cloaked. In this case, though, I will say, and I don't know if you remember, Dave, but Katy Perry was not wearing any kind of performance outfit or anything like that. She was very much in her natural state. And so that's why the kind of experience, because Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, because I think there were other people there as well. Wasn't that right?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, so it was more than just one person, and she was a part of this group of people that were there. So it wasn't just an isolated scenario. So this is very common. People experience being brought up in groups, and this is why I'm telling you there is a DNA genetic lineage to that, because these are bloodlines that have similar experience that are being collected in some of these council groups for whatever is being carried out. So in this case, I think that it was a very genuine experience that Dave was having with this individual. But yes, to answer your question, Mike, for the breeding program of the hybridization program, it is very common cloaking, okay, where these interdimensional beings will cloak themselves in something that appeals to you in order to breed. Okay, so that is a very common thing. Thank you for that question, Mike.
All right. I thought it was an interesting question as well.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to Vanessa. Can we embody more than one goddess? Is identifying with gods or goddesses holding us back?
Yeah, Van Gold, thank you so much for that awesome question. We can absolutely, in fact, here's the thing. When infinite potential source refracts itself through the dimensions in order to come and be encapsulated in your little body, the physical body, what holds this massive database of information, infinite potential, is essentially your DNA, which is deeply coiled with information and data. Okay? So this infinite potential and infinite information is organized in many different ways. Okay? In this dimensional plane, the way that information is is organized is in 13 sectors of information for the majority of the way that information self-organizes. So those 13 sectors can be seen as the astrological signs, as archetypal aspects of ourselves. And subconsciously in our psychology, in the way that we process this incredible amount of information, it will present itself as these deities, these gods and goddesses, which represent archetypal aspects of ourselves. And for most of you old souls, you have been here such a long time that you have really existed in the majority of these archetypes. You have all of these gods and goddesses embedded in your DNA as a part of your collective consciousness that you tap into. And it's incredibly important for you to become aware of the archetypes that you're playing out in this lifetime, the god and goddesses roles that begin to emerge as they're triggered in your everyday life experiences. Okay. And of course, if you study the goddesses and gods, understand the duality that exists within the representation of those archetypes in order to understand what are you playing out. Are you playing out the positive side of this god and goddess, or are you playing the negative side? And that is going to produce a massive amount of healing for you. In my opinion, this is how this information would be an invitation to be used in the most productive manner. To identify with one goddess is to only connect to one archetypal aspect of yourself. And remember, you have 13 different aspects of yourself that need to come into integration for this life to be productive and for you to embody your highest manifestation state. So that's why I always advise, don't get identified with any one thing, any ET race, any alien beings, any groups, any religion, any school of thought. Keep moving, keep evolving. Try to come to the 0 point of non-judgment, non-identity, so that you can integrate all parts of yourself into the highest truth. What we should be aiming for is to embody highest truth without that attachment and identification. But thank you so much. The answer is yes. And the answer is maybe. If you stay too long identified with the god or goddess, you might be holding yourself back. Absolutely.
We continue on with our resident goddess, Geraldine Orozco, and the spiritual you. Christine wants to know, is there a jellyfish-looking ET out there?
Yes, there is. Yes, there is. And I have encountered these jellyfish. And actually, there's several different kinds, but also in hypnotherapy regressions, I have heard countless cases of people that have encountered jellyfish-like beings. In fact, there seems to be an entire species of these kinds of gelatinous, transparent, translucent organisms that are highly, highly intelligent, super minimal, and incredibly connected to the morphogenetic field, where there's a realm of consciousness that is like produced through this organism. It's really beautiful. And they tend to connect more with the dolphin kind of races, because the way that they navigate, the kind of telepathic sonar, vibrational frequency navigation systems that they utilize are highly advanced. Usually the people that are connected to these ETs also have the potential of accessing that. They have highly acute hearing. They have highly acute and developed senses. So take a look and see if you have some of those highly advanced abilities and work on developing them more.
Awesome. The unknown would like to know, what do orbs look like?
Yeah, that's an amazing question, Unknown. So orbs essentially, well, they can be many different shapes, really. But one key thing to note about, because by orbs, we're talking about an individual light organism. It's a condensed system of light that is self-propelled, like self-moving, and it's self-generating light. It's not a reflection of light. It is emitting a light from its core. Okay, that's really important to note. And a lot of times these orbs will have geometric shapes or formations in the way that they are moving. They will usually move in shape and change form. They will not stay just stagnant for the most case. Usually there will be some form of movement, whether it's gentle. And essentially, you didn't ask what they are, but in my opinion, these orbs are, number one, an extension of ourselves, essentially, a communication with interdimensional consciousness that is deeply connected with ourselves, and also it is other interdimensional beings that come into our space for communication or for interaction, sometimes even healing. Preston Dennett talks about orbs that have healed people, and that's also something I've seen in my hypnotherapy sessions with my clients as well. So, the orbs are a consciousness. It's an isolated consciousness, an emission of light form. And that's what they look like. They look like little balls of light.
Derek would like to know, why do certain aliens get labels just like everything else?
Yeah, that's a great question, Derek. I really think that this is just the human mind. We are deeply, deeply indoctrinated and trained to compartmentalize everything, to label things, in order to simplify. Remember that the mind that doesn't want to think about things, it's easier for it to just name things and identify them. And that's usually where the mind ends, the human potential ends, because, once it labels things, it doesn't feel like it has to go further than that label. So it's really important as human investigators that we are of this human experience to question things. And with these beings, especially, because of their complexity and because a lot of them are hybrid beings. They're not one specific race. And within races, it's not one specific agenda. They are like humans, ranges of frequency manifested in those species. So I don't think that aliens can be specified in any one form, like the Draconians or the Reptilians or Pleiadians or whatever group there might be. It's just as complex as a human race. They're just as fragmented. So hopefully we want to try to move away from those labels so that we can observe them a little bit more objectively in our experiences and learn from them and, what they have to offer, what we're experiencing through those.
Okay, we're done with the audience questions for tonight, but looking back, we'll sneak Derek's question in here, and then I want to ask you something about my own regression again. So Derek's second question, any reason that there are slot of wars popping up everywhere, and will there be an end soon to the wars?
Well, Derek, that's a really powerful question. I mean, what I have seen and what a lot of people are tuning into right now is that our world is going through a major transformation. And when we transform internally and externally, we have to flush out all of the cancer, all of the parasites that are within the body that are causing death in the subconscious mind. In order for us to end the wars that are happening externally, we must extinguish the desire for death, for hate, for separation that is within us. This is really, really important. You need to understand that we are such a deeply interconnected organism that everything that we have running in our subconscious mind, any hate, any anger, any fear, is a reflection of what's happening in the collective. And the more people understand that and begin to anchor source through their bodies by becoming a channel of source, by cleaning up all that junk out and coming into a neutral state of observation, of compassionate observation, this is where we're going to start seeing changes in the world. And I think that these wars will continue to expand and propagate until the human understands that this is what what needs to happen. This drastic change of mindset and observing has to shift completely. So all of us are responsible for changing what is happening in the world outside of us by working with what is internal within us. Okay, so that's really, really important. And I think we're going to see a big dissolving of religions and major systems and governmental systems really quick. So do keep that in mind and try not to resist that, but to move along with a more collective, compassionate way of being in humanity.
Rock and roll. All right. One of the things that I wanted to bring up near the end here about the regression was
Mhm.
that Orion, the constellation, played a big role in that. And one of the things that I said was that apparently on the other side, both you and I have reptilian tails hanging out. I had no idea that you were a reptilian there, Geraldine.
Yes. I've had reptilian, absolutely. Even, my roots, my cultural roots, the reptile is really huge in that part of the world. So yeah, anyway, what is your question?
But just the fact that we were seen together hanging out on Orion, or
Yeah,
we're just below Orion's belt. And you know what? If you actually look, there is a very faint star or a
yeah,
pair of stars right there.
yeah,
And I'm assuming that's where your lineage and my lineage potentially may come from.
that's right. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
What's there?
Yeah. Yeah, it's really amazing. And I think, the planets are conscious, and planets have create the DNA and the blood, or essentially the makeup, the organic makeup of the organisms. So the fact that we tapped into that information, we need to understand what are the things that we have failed in that race when we were existing as reptilians. How did we fail? What did we fail to see or to transcend? And what we're going to find is connections between things that we're dealing with in this lifetime. So it's really powerful to access this information. It can help our ascension, in this lifetime. I've seen that for myself, and I know you also see that too.
Well, I found it very interesting, because every time I've looked at you, I've never seen a tail. Never seen a tail. Where are you hiding that tail?
Well, I will also say something else. In the etheric bodies, when I see people that have tails, tails are the growth of the accumulation of stagnant information in the root chakra. So deep, deep fear, primal belief systems, fears of not being safe, fears of not feeling like it's okay to be in the body. And if you think about the reptilian draconian races are known for having really thick, long races, tails, because it is the development of the root chakra in the inverted motion, right? So when there's a lot of stagnation and it's a primal grounding into survivalism, this is part of the core belief systems of these races. It is also why we have our reptilian brain, which is essentially the system that puts us into survival mode. Our entire fight, flight, freeze mechanism is rooted in that reptilian brain. Okay, so it's in our biology. Our survival mechanism are our reptilian roots. And in reality, every single human has it. So we need to learn how to integrate those survivalist parts of us.
Yes, we do. We have just under 2 minutes to go with you tonight. And I want to just say thank you for the great education that you've given us. And because he's a veteran, and we are heading into Remembrance Day and Veterans Day, and thank you for your service, Marine Black Dragon. Let's ask his question here. Can aliens communicate the same way as spirits do?
Amazing question. And the answer is yes, because we're all speaking the same language, which is vibrational frequency. Okay. So when these spirits, which are oftentimes disembodied souls or or soul fractals that are in between dimensional states, usually they will affect matter in some way in order to communicate with us. Now, aliens tend to be at a little bit higher octave than spirits, okay? Spirits usually between the 8th and maybe 10th dimensional layer maximum. Interdimensional beings can go, usually up to the 13 dimensional plane. And then they tend to be less parasitic or less intrusive in their communication. They won't communicate very directly. So you might want to just observe that. And what I mean by the vibrational frequency is that the communication will be more telepathic. It will be very visual. In the difference between spirits, they tend to call your attention towards the physical, and interdimensional beings tend to call your attention towards the interdimensional, to the holographic realm, visual, imagery, emotional senses. Okay, so spirits also tend to have a parasitic element where sometimes they feed off any fear or emotions that can be emitted or produced by the interaction. So keep in mind, in the same way that interdimensionals do, the parasitic ones, the high vibrational ones won't want you to feel fear anywhere near them. In fact, they will deliberately eliminate the fear out of your body.
Geraldine Orozco and the Spiritual You. We will talk to her once more to finish off 2023 at the beginning of December. We love Geraldine Orozco.com is her website. Hour 3 of Spaced Out Radio is next. Love you, my dear. Say hello to everybody in Vegas and tell them I miss them all.
Yes, I will. Thank you so much, Dave. Have an amazing week, and I'll see you soon. Bye, everyone.
Take care. Thank you. Geraldine Orozco, everybody. I'll be right back. You guys enjoy the break. And I'll be here back in a minute or two. All right, we are back. Sarah Yan, how you doing? We having a good time tonight? Yeah, that was an interesting show. So now we got Geraldine's opinion of it. Mike Bothwell, thank you for the second super chat. Very much appreciate that, my man. Even though you are a poor Senators fan. At least you have goaltending. I don't. Rex, good rum. How you doing, man? Simon the Likeable, thanks for coming on in. Remember, Super Chat is open. Mike ×2. Catherine ×1. Very much appreciate the love. And you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. Nope, we do not have ugly swag. Hi, Nikki in Seattle. Hope we're having a very good night. Here we go, everybody.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live at KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Salsugidus. Salsugidus is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join me on Patreon at the SOR Space Travelers Club. It is that time of the night where we kick off hour number 3. We bring in Steve Stockton from the YouTube channel Among the Missing for another spooky story.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Among the Missing YouTube channel on Spaced Out Radio. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'm about to take you on an unbelievable journey of people just like you. Their stories and encounters will haunt us on Among the Missing. Connie Johnson was a 76-year-old who had worked as a wilderness ranger at the Moose Creek Ranger Station for the U.S. Forest Service. She was also a Selway Bitterroot Foundation member, often led backcountry tours for young people and other groups. Her friends described her as an experienced outdoors person who could survive emergencies. Connie worked as a camp cook for Ritchie Outfitters. The area was very remote with no roads and only accessible by horse or on foot. Connie was last seen on October 2, 2018 by hunters. According to County Sheriff Doug Giddings, the hunters had radio contact with Connie the next day. Still, they could not understand what she was saying as the radio transmission was weak. When they returned to the camp on October 5, Connie and her dog, Ace, were gone. Chris Adkins, a former colleague, says, "It's reconcilable. You know, what everyone is dealing with this because, like you said, this isn't like some pilgrim's first rodeo. This is a woman who spent the last 25 years of her life, most of them, on foot in the wilderness, alone, doing her wilderness range work. If there's anybody who has a skill set that positions them to beat this, it's Connie." A thorough search was conducted to locate Connie, involving searchers on foot and tracking canine. U.S. Air Force, Idaho National Guard, and Clearwater County Backcountry Helicopter Rescue Team used FLIR heat technology from aircraft to aid the search. Despite the efforts, Connie was not found, and the search was called off on October 16, 2018. Connie's dog, Ace, was found 3 weeks later at the Moose Creek Ranger Station, which is about 15 miles away from the camp. However, Connie was not with him. The Rangers examined Ace, provided him with food, and attempted to search for Connie with his help, but they still were unable to find her. Connie's daughter said she could only speculate about what happened to her mother, but did not believe her disappearance was intentional. I think that she was enjoying the outdoors, which she loves, and something happened. The weather came up. She fell. I don't know, but I think that she got surprised. Given the temperature, given the lack of time, given the lack of signs of her, and the fact that Ace is not with her. Next up, Michelle Vanek, who went missing from Mount of the Holy Cross in 2005. Michelle Vanek, a 35-year-old married mother of 4, attempted to climb Mount of the Holy Cross in the northern Sawatch Range of the Rocky Mountains with a friend on October 24, 2005. However, Michelle became tired and complained of a headache while hiking along the Halo route and decided to rest. Her partner continued climbing towards the summit and planned to meet Michelle on his way down. Michelle was an experienced marathon runner, but may not have been fully prepared for the physical and mental challenges of the Halo route, which requires hours of traversing over loose rock in an expansive, unmarked wilderness. Nate Goldberg, a local resident, was one of more than 700 people who searched for Michelle for 8 days. Goldberg says, while Michelle and her hiking partner set out to make it to the top of Mount Holy Cross, they unlikely intended to take the Halo route. According to Goldberg, it was the summer that they were putting in the new outhouse up there. So when they arrived at the trailhead in the morning, it was still dark. There was a big crane up there. I believe that they got disoriented, and instead of getting on the Half Moon Pass trail for the traditional route, they got on the Fall Creek trail and didn't realize it until they got to the top of Notch Mountain. At that point, they said, we're already up at Notch. You can see the top of Holy Cross. Let's just do this Halo route. If you're looking across and seeing that route, it doesn't seem that far. Nearly 2 decades later, in August of 2022, father and son hiking in the area discovered one of Michelle's hiking boots that had evidently been there for a long time. The leather was almost completely gone, but the sole was intact. A forensic investigation concluded it was Michelle's boot, and with this discovery, another trip to the area with a more thorough search was planned once weather permitted. On August 25, 2022, Scott Beebe of Vail Mountain Rescue set out to look for Michelle with his dog, Stryker, along with other cadaver dogs and their handlers. No further trace of Michelle was found. Investigators questioned her hiking partner, but eventually closed the case with no solid evidence that any crime had occurred. Ed Katauskas, leader of the Vail Mountain Rescue's canine team, stated, "You hope that, especially after 20 years, we're going to find something. But unfortunately, it's just the way it works with recovery operation. Nature's very good at taking us back to the earth, and it is amazing how quickly that happens in the environment. You just disappear."
Don't disappear on us, because we love it when you're tuning into Spaced Out Radio. Thank you to Steve Stockton from Among the Missing for another creepy story. If you want more just like that, head on over to youtube.com/Among the Missing. From the mysterious to the mountains of Montana, where the snow is starting to fall, it's Super Duke from World Bigfoot Radio and the Cryptid Report. Super Duke, the Cryptid Report with Super Duke. Super Duke from World Bigfoot Radio. It's always good to have you here, my friend. How you been doing?
Nice chapeau there, Dave. I've been super busy and I've been getting things done without even doing anything. And this week was a great example where one of my viewers spotted something in the August field report that we put out, sent me a timestamp. I looked at it and went, well, by golly, that does look like a Bigfoot. So I sent it to Robin and she said, yep, that's Bigfoot. And I sent it to Christy and she went, oh, there's more than one there. So then I sent it to Kelly Shaw. And by the next morning, he had a breakdown video of it done and out on his channel. So anybody that wants to see a Bigfoot's face up close and zoomed in and slowed down and all that good stuff Kelly likes to do, it's over on Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization's YouTube channel. So that was kind of hilarious. And then this weekend, I got to be interviewed on my own show, which is the first time that's ever happened. And how, you may ask, did this audio ledger domain actually come into being, Duke? Well, straw person that's not really asking the question. My answer to that one is that there's this podcast called Blurry Creatures, and they wanted to have me on the show for the second time for their 200th episode. And then it turned out pretty good. And I went, hey, can I put that out on my show? So the same show that they turned out essentially, except when we were doing it, it was just basically an audio only recording for their show, even though there's video of it. And a lot of the stuff that I referenced, they didn't have the pictures of the video. So I'm going ahead and adding those back in for the release on my channel so everybody can actually see what it is that I'm referencing. And part one this weekend was a fun piece of video that I've never actually released before, which is the whole series of game cam captures from Florida in 2019. Friends of mine that have what they claim is a stationary portal on their property that they've known about for like almost 2 decades. And they had a game cam set up on it, and the damn thing keeps, like, batteries die, it goes off mysteriously, doesn't get pictures of things when it should. And so finally they started realizing there was some electronic interference going on there, so they actually hardwired it, buried cable in the ground for about 100 feet to a car battery, and left it on there. Then they started getting things. And one of the first things they got was a sequence of pictures where it's bright, sunny afternoon. There's some deer walking along by the fence line. Then this blur starts appearing in the background, this fog, as the portal's about to open. Well, then there's a Bigfoot's head right next to the camera looking at it. And it keeps moving around back and forth around this camera. And what's going on is it's trying to zap the camera and turn it off, and it can't do it. And it can't figure out why the camera keeps coming back on and clicking pictures of him.
Oh, my.
And there's a whole sequence about 3 minutes long. I show them all slowly, pretty much in order. And the interesting thing here is that it's bright afternoon, sunny, perfect conditions to take pictures. Camera's getting absolutely beautiful, clear pictures of everything except the object that's apparently the Bigfoot that's right up there by the camera. And I know people are going to go, oh, that's because it was moving so fast. Well, it's stationary. You can tell. And then the other one is that it's so close to the camera, it's causing a blurring effect. But the very last picture in the sequence, I left it there, where the owner comes up to pull the SD card on it. And you can see part of his face in the corner of the frame. He's perfectly in focus, same distance away this other thing was. So again, this worked out perfect for the show because they're called Blurry Creatures, which is kind of a nod of the hat to Mitch Hedberg, who did the now classic Bigfoot joke about how everybody needs to get off the back of the Bigfoot researchers and quit yelling at them for their terrible, lousy, crappy, blurry video. It's not their fault. It's not the camera's fault. It's Bigfoot's fault. Bigfoot is just blurry. And that's very disturbing. There's a large, blurry creature running around the woods that we essentially know nothing about. And so that's where they got the name for their show from. And I was the first person that was ever on episode 1. So since it made it to 200 episodes, they invited me back. So that's what we got going on over on my channel. And I'm really looking forward to getting in better shape here. I got to start training like Dave's doing so that I'm ready to go out and run across the plains there in Nebraska and find Bigfoot this spring. We're going to try and drag Dave with us too.
We'll see if I can find my passport, man. You don't know the pain in the butt that has been for me.
Hmm.
You know, my goodness.
You just fly to Mexico and walk across the border. You'd be there in a couple days.
Oh, probably. But hey, I want to ask you about this before I know you got some stories for us. Blurry Bigfoot. Why do you think it's blurry? What is your conception to this strange phenomena that we can never seem to get a clear picture of it?
I think a bunch of the things they're doing are all part of the same phenomena. And Robin's talked about this before too, that they raise their vibrational rate and their energy level. And even at the low levels, it's enough to basically make a blurring field around them, so that it's hard to get an actual clear picture of them because they just look blurry. They just look blurry. Everything around them is in focus. They look blurry. If they raise their vibrational level a little bit more beyond that, it bends the light around them completely, and they're cloaking. And we got picture of an object doing that, reaching out, trying to touch the camera person while they were taking a picture of them. And you can see the outline of this distortion field. It's like humanoid shaped, and it's got what looks like an arm reaching out toward the camera person when they took the picture. And they couldn't see it with their naked eye, but the camera was picking it up, bending the light around it. And then when it goes even higher vibration than that, they're completely invisible, or they just go through the dimensional membrane into the other world, which, like most of the native tribes, will tell you that they walk in two worlds, and that's what they're talking about.
Why does the camera not have an opportunity to focus? I mean, we've seen things move faster. Jet fighters.
Oh yeah, they could be standing completely still and be blurry. It has nothing to do with motion.
Okay.
They're just, like I said, it's some kind of a thing with a vibrational level in their hair. They're creating some kind of a distortion field around them. And they raise it more, it bends the light around them. If they raise it even more than that, they just go completely invisible. We got video of one from 10 years ago up in eastern Canada. It was standing across the river from this guy, and it's black, and he's got the video camera on it. And as he's watching on the video camera, the black starts going toward the center like that and getting smaller and smaller until all the black is gone, and it's green. It's the same color as everything around it. It didn't move at all. You could still see the same outline there. Just now, all of a sudden, it's green. And I showed this to Blaine Tyler, who's been on your show before and is part of the cast on Inevitably Finding Bigfoot. And he sent me back a screen capture and went, yeah, there's 3 more of them here. And I looked at it and went, sure enough, if somebody was hoaxing this, why would you put the ghostly images of 3 more in the background that only somebody like Blaine Tyler would ever spot? So we're both completely convinced that's legit. And this is the same thing. People have seen it before too. It's like, oh, where did it go? And their other little trick, of course, they can play is that they can move tremendously fast. So if you just turn your head for a split second, that's enough time for them to duck into another spot, and you won't see them. Somebody actually got lucky. I got to see a video clip of this where they were walking around out in the woods. They had their dog, and the dog was alerting to them that something was in front of them. And so they were kind of following the dog, and the dog wasn't super scared or anything, but it seemed to be kind of disturbed, and it was like looking toward this tree. So they went and walked up on the tree while they had the camera going. And as they're about 25, 30 feet from the tree, all of a sudden the Bigfoot jumps out from behind the tree and takes off like a bolt of lightning. And I mean, this thing was really fast. And they just about, what their pants and turned around and ran the other direction as fast as they could.
My goodness, I couldn't imagine. I'm actually heading out this weekend for a double shot of Sasquatch investigation. Going to my site where we saw the guy last year. We're going to do that on Saturday. And then on Sunday, we're going to go back to an area where we got chased out by Sasquatch in 2018. Everybody knows Merle around here, my buddy Merle and my buddy Little Marky Spender. So we are heading back out that way as well. So I'm not sure how or if we're going to get anything. It is starting to get a little bit cold around here, Super Duke, but you never know unless you're there. That's the main thing.
Yep. Yeah, I can hardly wait to go looking for the biggies in Nebraska again, too. It's going to be fun. We're going to drag you with this time, Dave.
I look forward to it, man. All right, we got 5 minutes to go here. Let's get to some story time with you tonight.
Well, here's what we got tonight. This is from local David Weatherly, Monsters of Big Sky Country. And, of course, the section in the book on Bigfoot is of interest. And he talks about some really old reports here. Sasquatch researchers believe the state of Montana has all the key elements needed to make it a likely location for Bigfoot to hide out. A quick survey of the state and its resources make it easy to see why this would be the case. The abundance of food and fresh water, along with the vast portions of uninhabited or sparsely populated land. Yeah, fourth biggest state in the union with a population of 1 million. Yeah, you could say sparsely populated. Would provide everything an elusive creature like Bigfoot would want. Despite the low population numbers, encounters certainly do occur. Through the years, ranchers, tourists, and everyday residents have had brushes with hairy bipedal creatures on the state's highways and in remote areas of the backcountry. Encounters in the state are not new, however, and there's a solid history of sightings from around Montana. Native traditions from the region contain many tales of the creature, and even today, creature still showing up on native land on occasion. Many early explorers of the region heard Native American tales of aggressive giants that threatened tribal members and remained a danger in the vast wilderness territories of the state. Of course, no account would be complete without somehow having to mention Lewis and Clark, and we're not going to be left out here. Trekked across to the Pacific Northwest, they encountered numerous tribes along the way and listened to many traditional tales, hoping to learn more about the land. During their time in what is now Montana, members of the expedition met a group of Flathead natives, that's to the north of me, in western Bitterroot Valley. Hey, I'm in the western Bitterroot Valley. It was the first time the Flatheads had seen whites, and the meeting was a peaceful one. Flatheads shared food with the white explorers and recounted some of their tribal lore to the party, including tales of creatures they called Natliskaligutan. Roughly translated, the term means killers of men. According to the Flatheads, these beings were powerful giants that had once roamed the area in large numbers. Reportedly, by the time of the Lewis and Clark expedition, the giants' numbers had been reduced, but they were still present and considered very dangerous. One traditional Flathead story gives a glimpse of the giant's powers. It says, once when a small hunting party came upon a giant asleep in the forest, they tied him with ropes of buffalo hair, sat upon his chest, and beat him until he woke up. Then he laughed thunderously, burst the ropes, and sent the men flying through the air as he rose to his feet. Seizing one of them by the ankle, he tossed him across the Missoula River. According to the Flatheads, the giants were physical creatures, not a part of the spirit world. Much like modern Sasquatch encounters, the giants made great effort to avoid being seen by humans, but the tales were abundant among the people. According to historian H.H. Turney, quote, fully half the Flathead stories deal with these giants, and easily 2/3 of them mention them. The Kootenai tribe of Idaho and northern Montana have similar tales of giants in the region. According to tribal member William Gingras, the giants were greatly feared by the people because they preyed on humans. Gingras said it was known that the giants followed the waterways, and if someone ventured to the water's edge, the giants would kill and eat them. According to Gingras, quote, my great-grandmother's uncle once found the skeleton of a giant buried in a sitting position in a grave near Superior, Montana, which is in far western Montana, Mineral County. The Coeur d'Alene Nation, who lived west of the Flatheads in Kootenai and what is now Idaho, also have tales of the giants, and according to the Coeur d'Alene, the monsters were as tall as a teepee, had a strong odor like that of a burning horn, or I would say an electrical fire, and had black faces. According to tribal lore, the giants lived in nearby caves and often stole fish out of people's traps. And then from there, they go to the eastern side of Montana. The Sioux Nation have tales of these hairy giants too. Reno First, a full-blooded Yankton Sioux and Montana native, spoke with the Great Falls Tribune in 1977 and recounted a traditional Sioux tale of the creatures. According to First, stories of the creatures go back way far in Sioux traditional lore. Our tribe traveled in what would now be the area from the Black Hills through western South Dakota, North Dakota, into Montana, and Saskatchewan. He also recounts the story of a group of hunters who found a place with many caves. Two of the men, a youth in his 20s and an older man, decided to venture into the caves to see what was inside. The men found themselves in a cave with crystallized rock that glowed in spots, allowing them to see inside the cave. As he recounts, quote, after some time they came to a place where the glow seemed stronger.
Let's leave it right there for now, Super Duke. Super Duke from World Bigfoot Radio is here. For the Cryptid Report, we got him till the top of the hour. We love our Dookie Poo right here on Spaced Out Radio. We continue right after this. Stay tuned. All right, man, we're clear. Hi, sweet Robbie G. Ruth Kleber, how are you?
Yeah, this is a scary story.
Well, if it's from David Weatherly, of course it is.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got a whole bunch of scary stories in this book. You'd be, one of the ones that's coming up that we're going to skip is Teddy Roosevelt. Of course, his story's included because I was in the Bitterroots right here in extreme western Montana, but we've already gone over that a couple of times, so we're going to bleep over that one. Might do some modern ones, actually, ones from this century. How about that?
Sure.
Sure. Let me go have Signo.
You go. I'll just sit here. What a good night so far. Honestly. Just a fantastic night. Geraldine was amazing. My beard looks amazing. Troubled Minds, you are amazing. You are the greatest. Rossi Dogs, what's happening? Tim Mothman, I got a lot to catch up to you yet, buddy. I'm telling you, this body healing that I've been doing, I'm starting to feel good. Starting to feel good.
Back.
Hey, Super Duke.
Hey, Dave.
Super Duke. Super Duke.
Yeah, I love it. Any week where I can actually turn out a video without doing anything, it's pretty awesome. Kelly liked that one, though. The funny thing was, though, me and Chrissy both looked at it and went, oh, there's one pretty well hidden behind those dead branches right on the left side of these two tree trunks, right? So we showed Kelly the screen capture, and he goes, well, send me the video link. So he looks at the video link, and he's like, oh, this is great. And he does this breakdown on it. And he was looking at one that was right in between the two tree trunks that we weren't even paying any attention to. And it turns its head and its mouth moves and stuff. Well, it's the 2.5 seconds he's got it on camera. So it's pretty cool. But there's another one in there that he didn't even point out. This is the point I'm getting at.
I like it. Good old Kelly Shaw coming up with the big game again.
Well, the cool thing is he also includes tracks that he filmed right near there 2 months earlier. And also the clip where he apparently caught two of them watching him 2 months earlier, which he's actually got the breakdown on that all done. He just hasn't released it yet. We got the comparison video for him. And it's like, yeah, those definitely aren't trees because they are not there in the comparison video. Absolutely not. And the one that we got with the face that he just did the breakdown on, that was probably less than a quarter mile from where he caught those two months before.
Wow.
So it all kind of, everything backs up everything else. It's like, yeah, there's a bunch of activity there hanging around this area right now. But, just because it's right now doesn't mean they'll be there next year or anything.
We got about 45 seconds. Big thank you to Maggie, Simon, Mike ×2, and Mama Catherine for the great super chats. Very much appreciate the love. Thank you to everybody who shopped at our Spaced Out Radio store, because we do not have ugly swag, people. No, sir. We do not have ugly swag. And then make sure you mark May 10th through 12th on your calendar for Reno, Nevada, the 3rd annual SOR fan party. We're going to be having some fun there with some celebrity people that you hear on this show. And, of course, all of you. We'll get you more information soon. Here we go. Final half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate you listening on in to the Cryptid Report. Want to remind you that if you missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join us on Patreon in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Here we go. Super Duke from World Bigfoot Radio and the Cryptid Report. Let's do this thing, Duke. You're telling us some pretty creepy stories here.
Yeah, before we go forward, we got to backtrack. We mentioned earlier that going back to Lewis and Clark, and let's just drop them again. Bitterroot Valley ran into Flathead natives, and the Flatheads told them about the Netliskilugitan, which was these cannibal giants that were eating people, and there were other tribes nearby that had mentioned of this, and they also brought up the Coeur d'Alene, who have mentioned of them. They didn't drop the name in this one. Now, it's interesting to note that I know the local natives' names for Bigfoot, and those are not the names for Bigfoot. So they're talking about something different. Again, man-eating giants, not Bigfoot. Like Blackfoot, it's Imyohutepe. Yeah, they're talking about something different. Like maybe what it was I found that track of in May that's 31 inches long. Those things ran around this area. So anyway, getting back to this now, this is from an old traditional Sioux tale. There were a whole bunch of hunters out in this area of mini caves. Two of the men, a youth in his 20s, an older guy, decided to go into the cave, check it out. When they got in there were crystals in there that were lighting it up. So they decided to go in deeper, and after some time they came to a place where the glow seemed stronger, creating a lighted hallway. They noticed the passageway turned at an angle in the light. A strong odor came to their nostrils. Rounding the bend, they came upon a large, hairy creature sleeping against one wall. As they stopped and stared at the strange sight, the creature raised its head, blinked open its eyes, and stared back. The men, of course, turned and ran. The men raced to get out of the cave, climbing back up and falling outside of the entrance, to the astonishment of their companions who had been waiting to see what they had discovered in the cave. The two men were in a state of shock. Their knees, elbows, and shoulders were cut and bleeding from falling down and bumping into the walls of the cave in their frantic rush to get out. Both were covered with sweat. Foam was coming out of their mouths. The men were taken back to camp and tended to. By the next day, they had recovered enough to tell their tale. Some of the tribe believed them, others did not, but further proof soon came. A few days later, the older man who had dared the cave was hunting with another companion. As the two were observing some deer, they had a strange sighting. Moving slowly through the bush was a big hairy creature similar to one in the cave. Its body hair was reddish in color, and it seemed to be stalking the deer. Ducking out of sight, the men quickly gathered their horses and raced back to camp with the news. The tribe immediately broke camp and moved north. Whether or not the Sioux found a place free of the hairy giants isn't quite clear. At the least, tribal members do still report encounters on their current reservation lands. It's important to note the tribe's traditions say this creature is ancient. Some refer to this biped as Chayitanka, or Big Man, and that is a name for Bigfoot. Peter Matheson even mentions the Big Man in his book Cellar, The Spirit of Crazy Horse, according to the book, quote, They exist in another dimension from us, but can appear in this dimension whenever they have a reason to. See, it's like there are many levels, many dimensions. When our time in this one is finished, we move on to the next. But the big man can go in between. The big man comes from God. He's our big brother, kind of looks out for us. And then, of course, they want to go into the Teddy Roosevelt report, which we're going to skip over. And we're going to go right to newspapers from the 1800s yield good number of wild man reports. These are scanned from the state of Montana, owing to the fact that there wasn't a whole lot of towns or newspapers here at the time. One story was run in the August 20th, 1892 edition of Anaconda's Standard, and Anaconda's about 60 miles from here. The paper reported that a wild man of sorts was running around in the mountains somewhere near the state's border with Wyoming. As the news reported, quote, some of the old-time hunters and Indian fighters who are still holding out in the city should endeavor to find a wild-eyed individual who came in from the mountains this morning. Whether he discovered a new brand of whiskey, or whether it was the loneliness of this life in the mountains that caused him to see visions and hear sounds, is not known. But whatever the cause, he had told a story that knocks Joe Klafke's ghost story, attested to by Jack Brennan, completely in the shade. He said that over in the range of mountains which formed part of the Wyoming line, he had seen evidence of the existence of a creature whose genus was unknown to him. He also claimed to have obtained a glimpse of the, quote, varmint, unquote, but always when he was unarmed, and as its appearance was such as not to invite a close inspection, he had never sought to get near enough to see just exactly what it was. He says the animal is covered with hair, but in form not unlike a man, a resemblance that is increased by the creature's habit of rising on its haunches and walking on its hind legs after the manner of a gorilla. After having seen the animal, the man said he could account for the existence of the torn and partially eaten carcasses of several large bears, and also of one mountain sheep that he claimed to have found in the vicinity of where the unknown animal apparently makes his headquarters. The stranger says he will return to the mountain shortly and will pilot anybody who may desire to visit the locality to the exact spot where he last saw the monster, unquote. Skipping well ahead, numerous sources list a weird 1952 sighting. Though David had been unable to determine the original source of the report, it may have come from researcher John Green. Reportedly in 1952, Lyle Slade was hunting elk at Seeley Lake in Missoula County. Hey, Missoula County, that's where I live. The hunter spotted what looked like a wounded elk on the opposite side of the clearing he was in. He also heard a strange sound described as a jabbering noise. As Slade watched, a 7-foot-tall creature crossed the clearing and headed for the wounded elk. The thing was covered with a cinnamon-colored hair. As if the sight wasn't unusual enough, Slade reported that the creature was wearing a leather belt with a brass buckle. Ray Crow also mentions the Seeley Lake incident in Bigfoot Behavior Volume 2, although no date is given for the report. It involves a freezer raiding Sasquatch. I've heard that one a few times. The incident comes from a woman named Anne who said her grandmother had seen the creature at their home near the lake. The woman reports, quote, she heard a noise on the back porch and went to investigate. There was a, quote, bear, unquote, near the freezer by the open door, his head still buried in the freezer. She shouted, and the bear stood up and turned to look at her. It nearly gave her a heart attack as the large ape-like face faced her, and then quickly walked off the porch into the night. Crow also mentions another undated account in the same volume. This one coming from, again, Montana Bigfoot researcher Don Monroe, who reported that 3 men had been out looking for a place to hunt elk when they spotted a large hairy creature in the brush around Johnny Creek. The creek's in the north central portion of the state in Phillips County. According to the witnesses, the creature was in a berry patch that contained a lot of huckleberries. And we know they love huckleberries. They love anything sweet. So, good stuff there. Let's skip up to some modern reports here.
Hold on. Let's talk about them huckleberries, because Old Davy likes a lot of huckleberries too.
Huckleberries. Yeah, actually, as Dave Pilates reported, there's 3 places where the majority of the missing 411 sighting cases occur. One of them is in swamps, and one of them is in big gravel slopes, big piles of broken rock. And the third one is in berry patches. And out of the berry patches, huckleberry patches have way more missing people than any other kind of berry patches. So does that cover it?
Love my huckleberries.
Yeah, just watch your back while you're out there looking for your huckleberries.
Right.
Here's a more recent report from our century. Another interview with some of Tenley's friends. State Trooper Jim Schneider verified the man's motives. Officer Schneider told reporters he was trying to make people think he was a Sasquatch. Now, this is about the famous 2012 report where there was a guy who was drunk. It was his birthday, and he had dressed up in a Bigfoot suit and was standing on the side of the freeway trying to make people think they had seen Bigfoot. And this didn't work out very well. It was like these two girls from Idaho ran him over.
That's not good.
No, it didn't work out the way he wanted. There wasn't any Bigfoot sightings, but he got run over. I think they backed up and ran him over again. No, I don't know. I'm kidding. They didn't. So anyway, this is in December 2nd, 2012. And if you think about it, December, the weather is terrible anyway. Snow on the ground, lousy driving conditions. It's at night, and he's messing around on a freeway with not even a ghillie suit, but a fake Bigfoot suit. He's really asking for it. Everybody in the state is armed. What did he want to get shot for his birthday? So anyway, it was about 250 to 300 yards away, and I could make it out quite well. This is hold on. Excuse me. He was trying to make people think he was a Sasquatch, so people would call in a Sasquatch sighting, and you can't make it up. I haven't seen or heard of anything like this before. Obviously, wearing the suit made it difficult for people to see him. And that was the whole thing. They weren't going to get a Bigfoot sighting. The weather was so bad, they couldn't see him, and that's why they accidentally hit him. A man driving between WSS and Checkerboard west of Sutherland Lake on December 2nd, 2012, spotted a Bigfoot along the road moving at a quick pace. As a witness reports, it was about 250, 300 yards away, and I could make it out quite well. The thing was on two legs, had very long arms that seemed to end barely above the knees. Its head was positioned as if a person were sticking their neck out, and it ran while barely moving its arms. It didn't look like it was alarmed, just as if it were just going along its way, heading back into the mountains. In scale to the trees, I'd say it was about 6.5 feet tall. The BFRO report of the incident doesn't offer any details on the creature's coloring or features. Here's another report. Joshua Kutchin and Timothy Renner mention an odd Montana incident in the second volume of Where the Footprints End. The report comes from Brian Duke Sullivan. Hey, that's me. A Bigfoot investigator and podcast host who had the experience in 2015. Sullivan spotted what he first thought was a tree stump with a pattern resembling a face. He intended to film the stump with his video camera as an example of pareidolia, but then noticed the expression on the stump had changed. Now realizing he was witnessing a Sasquatch, Sullivan elected to leave the area rather than disturb it. Obviously, there's more to the story than what they just told right here. But yeah, I'm in this book too. A man out on a wrecker call in Phillips County in January 2011 saw a creature on Highway 191 in the C.M. Russell Wildlife Refuge. It was about 1 a.m. when the driver reached the location a mile north of the Missouri River. As he reported to the BFRO, I was loading a car into my truck when I heard a deep grunt. I turned with my flashlight and looked behind me, and almost 100 feet behind me was an upright walking creature dragging the dead elk the car I was towing had hit down the side of a hill. It was about 40 below zero. I was cold and scared, so I loaded up and got the heck back to town. In a follow-up interview, the witness clarified that there was a full moon on the night of his sighting that aided his view of the Sasquatch. He said the creature he guessed was between 7.5 to 8 feet in height with brown graying hair. Its shoulders were broad, and the beast had long arms and a big square flat face. It used only one hand to drag the elk away by the antlers. The witness shined a light on the creature, and the thing's eyes reflected like those of a deer caught in the headlights. It looked at the man briefly, then continued dragging the elk away. Kalispell's paper, the Daily Interlake, reported in its September 10, 2017 edition on Misty Alibaugh, who reported she had been tracking Sasquatch in Montana for 24 years. The Columbia Falls resident saw a Sasquatch when she was 17 years old in 1993. She was with her parents at the time, but the elder Alibaughs did make a big deal out of the sighting. Misty's mother gasped and asked her daughter if she had seen the hairy man crossing the road, while her father simply told her just let it go. But Mary couldn't let it go. As the paper reports, her father had worked backcountry logging jobs all his life and had seen some odd occurrences through the years that couldn't easily be explained. He had been told if you leave it alone, it will leave you alone. Then Alaba saw it with her own eyes, and it was like nothing she'd ever seen before, but she knew it was Bigfoot. There's no doubt in my mind, she said. It was on a short hill. You could see the daylight between his arms, his hair lifting in the breeze. Alaba continued to research the topic of Bigfoot as she grew older. While she traveled to other regions to do field research, her main focus has been Montana, specifically the area between Kalispell and Libby. And yeah, I've been up to Libby. There's plenty of Bigfoot up there. Alaba says she has evidence she has collected over the years, including hair, blood, and excrement samples, but she doesn't have the resources to have testing done. Still, she presses on and tries to take a scientific approach. She told the Interlake, if it's what we think, it's something between prehistoric and a mountain gorilla. NBC News in Montana reported on the search for Bigfoot in the state on November 1st, 2019. The news spoke with Joe Hauser, owner of the Montana Vortex and House of Mystery, which is right outside Glacier National Park. Hauser told reporters that he certainly believes in Bigfoot. As the story related, Hauser walks the grounds every day. He bought the property to study the electromagnetic anomaly there, and he's the first to tell you weird things happen there. A lot of people come in totally skeptical, and then they leave and go, I don't know what's going on here, but there's definitely something going on here, Hauser said. Just so you guys know, I do know Joe, although I have not been to this property. Several of my friends have been there, and that's their reaction too. Is like, I don't know what's going on there, but that place is really strange. He says his interest was sparked. Go ahead.
5 minutes to go, Duke.
Okay. Said his interest was sparked when he first saw the famous Patterson Gimlin film of Bigfoot in Northern California. Hauser heard some weird screams in 1983 that he believes were Bigfoot, but 22 years later, he had a sighting. This time, he was at Avalanche Lake in Glacier Park with his son. He recalls the incident and says, he looks across the lake and goes, hey, Dad, there's two Bigfoot walking across that snowfield there. And sure enough, big strides, great big arm swings, arms down to their knees, and we had about a 5-minute sighting walking across that snowfield. Hauser told the news the creatures will knock on his house at night and that they leave signs of their presence around the property. He's seen the creature as recently as the fall of 2018 on a trail of the vortex. Tourists have also reported Bigfoot in the area. Says Joe, we have lots of sightings here. They're just not reported. We take reports in here almost every week, and this is all over Montana. Georgetown Lake, Anaconda, and people have been having experiences down there for years. Glacier Park has a lot of sightings up there. The BFR received a report from a witness who was riding a snowmobile in Jefferson County, March 9th, 2019. The witness posted the following descriptions, quote, I was up snowmobiling in the Elkhorns, and I saw a very tall creature about 200 yards away. I'd say the shoulders had to be 5 feet wide, and it was probably 9 feet tall. I watched it for a minute, then I got freaked out and left. The sighting occurred around 12 noon, and 2 other witnesses were present. In a follow-up on the report, investigators learned that the creature had very dark charcoal or deep gray to black hair. The witness did not see any facial features, but noticed large biceps. After about a minute observation, the witness and his friends left the scene. When they passed by the spot again several hours later, of course, the creature was gone. And it just goes on and on and on and on, and it's all in Montana.
Always in Montana.
There's no shortage of them here. And the majority of all the Bigfoot reports are from the western third of the state. You don't get a whole lot of them from out on the flats and the big ugly, as we call it. But over here on the mountain side of the state where all the forests are, yeah, they're all just everywhere. It's ridiculous.
Same as up here, my man, in British Columbia. The problem is they are the rating hide-and-seek champion for a reason.
Yep.
We got about 3 minutes to go here before we have to say goodnight. Great stories tonight, Duke. Very good stories.
Got more of the same for next week. So if you guys liked it, be more of that.
Love it. Absolutely love it from you, Duke. As the year starts to wind down, are you done with your gifting site or your research site now?
Oh, yeah. Field research season way over with now. I still got some video we haven't put out from this summer that I got to release. And now that I'm done with making sure everything's buttoned down for the winter, I can devote majority of my attention to getting my documentary done and getting that out, hopefully before Christmas. I should have the prologue part of it done by the end of the month at the very latest. And tomorrow, for anybody that happens to be around in the afternoon, I'm going to be the guest on Paranormal Highway with Eric Wood at like 2 or 3 o'clock our time out here on the Pacific Coast. Check the time on his channel on YouTube, Paranormal Highway. It'll be my first time appearing on there, and he's a really good guy. He also gets out and does field research on ghosts and UFOs and Bigfoot and whatever around his area.
That's what it's all about, right?
Yep.
Sharing the message, sharing the love, sharing the contact of all of these cryptid creatures. Super Duke, tell us where we could all find World Bigfoot Radio.
Oh, of course, you can find me on Odyssey, Rumble, and BitChute, but you can also find me here on YouTube at World Bigfoot Radio. If you want to contact me, the best way to do that is either via email at worldbigfootcentral@yahoo.com or come over and hang out on my group on MeWe, the censorship-free platform, where I have a group called World Bigfoot Central. It just happens to be the biggest Bigfoot group on that platform. If you want to just get updated on when my show comes out, which, by the way, is every Sunday at 8 Central, updates on the show and whatnot are posted over on World Bigfoot TV on Facebook, and the actual Field Researchers group where they show all their video and evidence, and mine gets showed there too, is Montana Bigfoot Project over on Facebook. So come on over and check it out.
Yes, Duke, you are always where the sun is shining and the water is just fine.
Oh, and I'm on Twitter now too.
Super Duke on X, Super Duke.
Elon forced me. He told me I had to go over and join.
Duke, I always appreciate your time here on Spaced Out Radio, my man. Thank you so much for being as awesome as you are.
I always enjoy being here, guys. Thanks for having me. I'll see you again next Tuesday. And meanwhile, yes, Robin will be here on Thursday.
Yes. Robin McCrae, Robin Haynes.
Robin Haynes. She can read the thoughts in your brains.
You got that right. You got that right. Duke, thank you so much for a great show tonight. Thank you to Geraldine Orozco for coming on in and bringing us a lot of fun tonight on the Spiritual You, talking about my regression encounter that I had a couple of years ago with her. Still trips me out. Still trips me out, my friends. What do you do? We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, X, and on X, Spaced Out Radio. I know you're out there somewhere. Remember, this show is copyright Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we got room for them too. Good night. There we go, Super Duke.
Radio ready and a zombie wolf. We got through another one.
Hard to believe, my man. Hard to believe.
Hey, you do a show every night, so it's so easy for you. It's just like falling off a log.
It's true.
You just make it look so effortless. Like it's so easy to be on air and do a show all the time.
Hey, I'm trying to keep up with you, man.
You're at my overwhelming 0 radio stations that are carrying my show. It's amazing.
Oh. You know it's gonna be. You know what's gonna be my next big ass buster
What's that?
is there's gonna be a bunch of people who aren't in our chat room who are all of a sudden going to be bitching and moaning when I bring advertising in.
Oh no.
Yeah, because I really like doing this 5 days a week without getting paid.
Oh yeah.
So there's going to be a bunch of people who are all of a sudden, you're too commercialized. Why do you have commercials? And then I got to go through the speech. We're not a podcast or a YouTube commercial or a YouTuber channel. We are a business.
Yeah. Well, I can't make that claim because my income from my channel is like zero.
You're not even cashing in on Rumble yet.
Oh, Rumble? Yeah, I think they owe me like $5 or something. Who cares?
You got to get monetized again on here.
Yeah, even if I did, they keep my channel so suppressed that I don't get enough views to make any money on it anymore anyway. Occasionally, somehow they screw up and I get like 15,000 views on a video. And then they're like, oh, we need to readjust the algorithms on that. And it's back to like 1 or 2,000 again the next 6 months. And it doesn't make any rhyme or reason sense anytime that it happens. Like shows that should be getting 60,000 views, nothing. Shows that shouldn't get like hardly anything. Oh, 15,000. Okay, that makes sense.
Dude, I can tell you, I have had episodes where I thought they would absolutely blow up and they never did.
Yeah.
And I can see a channel with a worse interview than mine. And yes, I'm being biased. Okay. And they got like 100,000 views on that video.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got like 10,000.
Yeah. Well, look at when I brought back Dr. Melba Ketchum for the first time in like almost 10 years. Somebody finally talked her into being on a show. And she's like the person in the Bigfoot community when it comes to Bigfoot science and DNA. And what I get on that, like 6,000, 7,000 views. Are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
No, my channel's not suppressed at all. Of course not. No.
I saw one channel interview Lou Elizondo. They had like 1,700 subscribers. Their video with Lou got like 60,000 views.
Yeah.
The channel at the time, which was at like 18, 19, 20,000, somewhere in there. I think I got like 8,000 views on mine.
Yeah. Yeah, I know it's ridiculous. And some of me just going, oh, Duke, it's just because you didn't do that good of an interview with her. You know what? That's not what she said. She's done all the major radio shows. She's done all the major TV shows. And by the way, I've got her on speed dial. And she told me, and she's not kidding, that was the most fun she has ever had on a show, ever. So it wasn't because it wasn't a good show. It's just because of the powers that be over here at YT like to screw with certain people.
Yep. I hear you. Super Duke. Don't go fucking with the Super Duke.
No, because when Super Duke gets pissed, you're going to be sorry. See, look at Angels right there. See, Angel saw it. Duke, that interview was incredible. There you go. Thank you, dear. And it wasn't me. It was just Melba Ketchum's an incredible person to interview. And if you know the right questions to ask her, you get incredible interview out of her.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Incredibly smart woman. And she's still working and she's still doing more research. And as soon as she's got another major chunk of it ready to release, she'll be on my show for updates. So once again, everybody can ignore it. Or like 100,000 people watch it and they'll make it look like only 2,000 looked at it or something. Super Derek. Look out for him. He's the manager of the Hulk, and the Hulk has been calling out Il Omni Volador.
Oh. Derek, I don't know why. Hey, Paranormal Highway. How you doing, buddy? Derek, I don't know why you're trying to call out El Omni Volador.
Hey, Paranormal Eric, I just plugged you and told everybody I'm going to be on your show tomorrow afternoon. So tons of them are going to show up now.
Super Eric. Super Eric.
Eric has really fun shows.
Super Eric. Trademark. Trademarking that super.
Now the pressure is on, he said. As soon as I get up here, I'm going to send you some video clips over on email, Eric, so you can preview stuff that we're going to talk about tomorrow. Oh, my Lord. Yeah, that was funny when I was reading this book by Weatherly, and I'm like, oh, I've got a report in it. That's interesting. But it's a report from another book. So I'm in 2 books that I didn't know I was in. Well, that's interesting to find out. And I'd like to see what the other report that Tim did, because it's probably longer and includes more detail. The version that he covered here is like bafflingly weird. Well, why did you not film or anything? Because he was like 60 feet away, giving me a ugly stink face, like he was going to kill me, and it did not make me want to put my camera up and try and film him. Plus, he was in between me and the road. These are all really good reasons that weren't mentioned.
Yes. Super Duke, we're going to call it the night here, my man. I appreciate you.
All right, everybody. I'll bow out. Thanks, Dave. See you all later. I'll see you over on Eric's show tomorrow for those of you that are going to make it over there. Always fun. Take care, Dave. Start doing your Rambo training so that you're ready to be like Rocky Balboa, running strong now through the cornfields of Nebraska next spring, finding Nebraska Bigfoot.
I love it. We'll get to it, buddy. All right, my friend. You take care. That's Super Duke from World Bigfoot Radio. And I'm almost done here. So I'm going to call it the night with you guys. Thank you to Mama Catherine, Mike ×2, Simon, and Maggie for the amazing super chats. Very much appreciate the love. And don't forget to shop at our store on our website, spacedoutradio.com. We do not have ugly swag, people. No siree, no ugly swag here. When you buy our stuff, you're getting good, nice stuff. That's truthful. All right. So, big one for all of you is for me to say good night to you. Tomorrow night on the show, who do we have? Science Bob. Science Bob is back tomorrow night. So come show Science Bob some love. You know he's going to show you some love back because that's what Science Bob always does. So we'll talk to you all tomorrow night, everybody. Thank you very much for tuning us in tonight. Good night.
healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.